me make an episode out of it today because I've been too busy cutting and not enough doing of my other work. We have an excellent connection currently.
Oh, let me turn off my thing.
And we're very excited to see somebody come our way. Don't know if anyone has yet because my chat window is closed. Docs. Chat. Scenes. I can't see anybody's chats. We have no views currently, so we're okay. Chat. There it is. It's just you and me, kid. TikTok.
Just us.
No TikTok, as it were. And Erica is the first to arrive. Hi, Erica. How you doing?
Hi, Erica.
We're so glad to see you. Thank you for coming by. I'm very excited, Erica, because today was the first day that I actually sat down and started like editing some of the stuff that we're doing here with you guys. Delicate has arrived. Hello, Delicate.
Wonderful. It's always nice to see Delicate with us.
Yes, always. And so, yeah, so it's been really exciting because like today I started cutting and I got to say that the whole cutting thing was was unexpectedly fun for me. And
you love editing. This is something I think that
I have to come to terms with it.
Yeah, I think that you don't like how long editing takes. Like it's always a big job.
And the tedium.
The tedium.
The tedium gets to me.
But when you're in it,
a little bit,
like it's like you're, what do they call it? You're in your groove.
Entranced. Yeah, I'm in my groove.
You're in your element.
My element. Yeah, that's what they say. Yeah, that's the ticket. I'm in my element. Right now, I got my monitor speakers going, and that makes us have a slight echo, but that is now gone. So anyway, but I am excited because it does mean many things. First of all, it just means that we're going to create. So the thing about streaming, Guilty Angel just arrived. Hello, Guilty Angel. The thing about streaming live is that as none of the algorithms out there really are designed, even in TikTok, although better on TikTok than on YouTube or Twitch, for example.
Apparently not.
But the algorithms are not designed to like really bring or loop people in on their own. And typically, in order for live streams to do well, you have to produce content. And a lot of people, this is no secret, they produce their content through their lives. Yeah. Which is what we're going to do. You hear me? So, but I haven't been doing it because I've been kind of too busy trying to get it like now it's kind of very raw. Like we don't have any graphics or anything, that kind of stuff right now because I'm taking it into post now. It's exciting because it does mean that we're going to get some more people in here. And I think that'll be...
I spared a thought today
fun.
For all the awesome legal YouTube, the LawTube channels that we depend on for awesome like lawyer coverage.
Right. Yes.
And then as soon as there's like an acquittal or a verdict or something, they can't make that content anymore and people just drop off. Like yeah. I was watching a few of these every day for the last month, and I didn't today because there's nothing to watch.
No, I think it's like
I feel bad for them.
It's a hit on the paycheck for sure. Yeah. I can't wait till we get hit on the paycheck. Dr. Susan's with us. I am in a better mood. Erica says that it seems that I'm in a better mood today. I am in a better mood today.
You know why? Because you edited all day and you enjoy it.
I think that also, like whenever I sell books, I get it cheers me up, and so we sold some books. That always cheers me up, and
somebody likes me. Somebody out there really likes me.
Well, it's a little less than that. It's more like somebody's gonna read me. Somebody out there is going to read me. Like it's all you do. It's all you really do this for. Like you make films because you love the art. But if art was like all I was after, it'd probably become something more personal, like something more intimate, like a sculptor or a painter or even a poet. But instead, I chose film and books, and those are both mediums that just require an audience for even a remote sense of satisfaction from them, really. Because like reading your own stuff and going, wow, I'm really good. Like that doesn't work. And it doesn't, and I don't feel that way. Like one day I'll read my stuff and I like it. The next day I hate it. It's part of why I struggle reading on the lives now, which I am going to continue, by the way. Just putting it out there. I will be continuing the live reads, but I'm just setting stuff up, man. We're getting there. We're almost a month into YouTube now, and I'm starting to understand the platform a little better in terms of like how I want to work it. I'm going to start a whole new channel for the
Okay, but back to what you were talking about.
Super fun.
You were talking about how you chose an art form where it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
And that means that like inherently you're always at risk of missing a whole major portion of your artistic expression, right? Like if you don't have readers, then difficult. You don't have your story telling.
Well, I've still have my story. Like writing is the closest thing to that intimate art form that I was saying. I used to like, I have a certain amount of envy. My brother is he can sit and illustrate, right? And he can do it at the highest level. And so I've always just admired that he could sit down and just like fully satisfy his art, but it's really not like, it doesn't work that way for him either, because the man longs for people to see his work.
No, it's true. Like what is a storyteller without an audience?
Tanner's here. Dr. Susan's here. Place is filling up, yo. What?
I was just saying, what is a storyteller without an audience, right? Are they a storyteller at all? Because you need. Yeah,
are they just audience. Rambling on and to the blank wall?
Who are they telling the story to?
Well, look, Charles Bukowski wrote a lot of poems before anybody really read them. So that art is there's a lot of expression that of art. Art is art. It doesn't have to have an audience. It's just that and listen, the whole time that Charles Bukowski was writing poems that nobody was reading, all he longed for was for people to read them. He sent them to all the the rags and whatever and tried to get them published time and again, and did what all the old time authors did, which was go through years and years and years and years and years of rejections, minor little wins here and there, until finally people realize that he's an actual fucking genius.
What's really funny about that is that like Bukowski's whole style is so like, irreverent and like cynical, and it's just funny to think that he too was like, oh please, oh please, oh please.
Everybody is
like trying to get picked,
Everybody is. We love the work, and we love the idea that the work changes people. Like it's really that for me. Like the idea that like when people show up here and they're like, Dale, I loved your book. Like the joy I feel is not for me. It's for having created something that does that. Because for me, it's the thing I love the most that happens to me is when I'm moved to tears or to fear or to whatever it might be in the work and art that I consume. So that's what it's all about.
Can we talk more about Bukowski?
He was a mean son of a bitch, but I loved him dearly.
Oh, you still use the same thumbnail from last time.
I know. I'm gonna have to, I know, I'm sorry. It's not lazy. It's busy.
I don't think anyone is accusing you of being lazy.
Well, you know what? I am not lazy.
I just want to talk about Bukowski just briefly.
Oh my God, I'm looking at a picture right now of everybody out in the front of the court. It's like Karen Reed, it's Jackson, it's Karen Reed's father, and guess who is all the way at the back? The guy with the big chin.
He's always at the back.
The guy with the big chin is always at the back. He's all the way at the back. He's very happy.
He's probably like an accomplished lawyer, but this whole time we just assume that he's like a paralegal that just works their tech.
He's obviously a wonderful and important. His embrace of Karen Jackson was very.
He's Mr. Wolf, right?
Mr. Wolf, I believe.
Yeah, Mr. Wolf, would you please show us exhibit?
Yes. Yeah, Mr. Wolf was running the exhibits, and he was running the projector or the PowerPoint, and he killed it at that. By the way,
critical component.
His work, they were like synchronized during closing arguments. Anyway, he's all the way at the back. I would like, I always talk about like as a writer how I just put dialogue in my head for things I see. So my dialogue for him was him having internal dialogue while he's watching Jackson and everybody else go up for the sidebar. And he'd be sitting there and he'd be staring, and then I would immediately he would laugh because I would just start talking out loud because I'd be like, one day I'm going to be up there talking to the judge. One day I'm going to turn to the judge and go, no, Your Honor, I want this on the record.
That's going to be me one day.
That's going to be me one day up there next to Jackson. And I'm going to be the one speaking first.
Lead attorney.
Mr. Wolf. Because I actually did that. I got promoted at like a very young age in a telemarketing room to manager, and I bought these suits at a secondhand, like at a vintage, or I guess it was just a used, you can call it vintage. It was just used clothes, and just these old ass used suits that I could afford. And I bought them, and they were big on me, absolutely ridiculous. Pictures, if there were pictures of me in these suits, they would truly be the most embarrassing things that would ever be produced in this lifetime. I mean, fucking shoulders like out to here, and just absurd. The belt so tight that the pants are rippled.
Dale, like that Talking Heads music video where he's like short.
Yeah, yes, kind of like that. Except that is at least, I mean, like my pants were so big that I had to put a belt on them, and then they would ripple, because they're like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, they'd pleat.
Pleat, thank you. I knew you'd know.
I sew clothing.
So I'd have these like belt pleated over.
Anyway,
pants.
You were talking about the lawyers? What about?
And I stood in front of the mirror and I got my promotion, and I was like, Mr. Manager. I was like rehearsing things I'd say, like, hey, I'm gonna need to see you after the shift. We're gonna have a talk. Gonna have to talk after the shift.
What's so great is that it's so clear that you were trying to be a manager of like some fucking retail or like fast food, because you said after the shift.
After the shift.
So you're not even imagining in your imaginings of imaginings.
No.
You're not even putting yourself in charge of like an office.
No.
It's after the shift.
It's after the shift.
That's adorable.
I'm gonna need you to pick up the pace a little bit, or else.
Listen, you clocked out a little early the other day.
The hours are from 5 to 9, not 5 to 8:55. Okay. Anyway.
Oh my God, that just gave me such
anxiety almost.
Yeah, right? like you just unlocked memories that I'd been long suppressing about working in this.
By the way, there's a shit ton of things going on in the Blake Lively trial. Like, there's all kinds of motions going through. There's all this evidence coming out of JW now, and these texts or emails.
I just want to point something out.
It's a little overwhelming.
I tried to talk about Bukowski twice.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk about Bukowski.
I'm not sure that anyone wants to talk about. I do. I love
forget
Bukowski.
it.
What about Charles Bukowski? No, tell me about it.
Tell me about what Blake Lively
Let's do it.
No, I don't want to anymore.
I feel like I missed a really great opportunity, and I want to take it now if I can. You're not going to let me have it.
The time's over.
So you just brought it up so that you could.
Yes, I wanted to point out. I wanted to point out about how I got steamrolled 2 times. But there is a lot of news in this Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni lawyer conflicts.
So much.
So I don't really understand what's going on now. It seems like since Baldoni's lawsuit got dismissed, which we completely predicted from the start, because what the fuck was that? What is Brian Friedman even doing?
I know. He's
completely contradicting his evidence that he prints on the same page. Like, one page he says something, the evidence says the opposite. It's just weird.
It's weird.
So we just expected that it would get. I thought it would get pared down. I didn't think that it would get outright dismissed. And I guess it isn't. There's like 2 charges that he can bring it again, like if he wants to amend. But as a result of the dismissal, I don't know what their arguments about discovery are now, because
they get to argue what they're subpoena, what they're getting. So as defendants,
yes,
they still have an equal right to discovery as they would as cross complainants. So so
are they going to allege the same things that they had in their lawsuit?
Well, they might assert the same things as a matter of defense, right? Because now they're defending.
Oh, so their assertion is that she orchestrated this whole. She made up harassment so that she could take over the movie.
Correct.
They're still going to go with that. Amazing. I love that for them.
100%. Their story is not going to change.
This is going to be delightful.
Yeah, it's fun. Actually, I had up just I was working, and I had a browser that I hadn't realized that I had stashed that kept reopening, and it was
porn pop-ups.
It was their website, and their whole timeline.
Oh my God, I know.
I just started, and it's like a good book. I like, I just
I know.
scrolling, and
it's like a relic from the past. There was this person who wanted to argue with me on Twitter about this lawsuit, and he was like the evidence that she was planning an attack is on page 136 of his of his lawsuit timeline, like doing the same shit that we used to do when we were trying to prove people wrong.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh well, let me just. So
go there.
Yeah, so I went there. I screenshotted it, and I don't know if he got his page wrong or whatever, but what he was pointing out as evidence of her plan to attack was that Golden Bridge, the prepared statement that apparently Lively and Ryan Reynolds maybe had put together and offered him as like, hey man, if you put out this press statement, then maybe we could all start mediating and figure out a way to avoid more of a conflict. And I don't know what that guy was thinking, that was some evidence of a plan. It reminded me of when Kevin Connolly had lunch with you and RD, and RD had to leave. Yeah, at Dalt's restaurant in Burbank. And RD had to leave because he was going to a notary. He had to meet Stutman, and they were going to a notary to get a notarized document certifying whatever it's called, that Leo had decided that he was cool with what he was getting paid. That was the point of visiting the notary.
The actual document was to declare that Leo and Toby had agreed, as had all other actors, to a favored nations deal.
Yes.
And that there were multiple people present for that agreement, and that it was memorialized. Because in the state of California, and this is true, I think, for many states, a meeting of the minds is an actual contract. So
right.
Yeah.
And so RD was like talking to you guys like, oh, I got to go to the notary for this thing. It's so that we can make sure that, even though Leo didn't sign a document about this, but everybody was witness to it, we're just going to have a notary say it happened. And then Kevin immediately leaves the restaurant and then goes and talks to Leo and tells Leo that he's going to, that you guys are planning to
tells him to watch his back.
Yeah, that you guys are poised with a knife at his back, that you're going to stab him in the back. And it just reminded me of the same allegation with Lively to Baldoni, where everybody's
such a
like,
fucking weird thing to do. Like, what are you talking about? Like, first of all, we sat there and told him everything.
This is what I'm saying. So this guy on fucking Twitter was alleging that she was planning to attack by showing him a prepared statement that they were hoping that he would approve and edit and, make his own. But like, they were like, we're suggesting something that would be cool if you said this publicly so that we can make all this bullshit go away. And everybody says that was some sort of like secretive plan to attack, but she's like showing it to him. She like sent it right to him. She's like offering it to him. Like what sort of like plan of attack is that? Why would you just show, like, Kevin didn't think for a second that like RD just told one of Leonardo DiCaprio's best friends in life about he's going to go to this thing, and you think it's like some sort of like trick, like he's going to fucking divulge his whole master plot to the guy who's like really close, like has his fucking cell phone number.
RD and Kevin Connolly were arguably closer than Leo and Kevin were, so I don't know, but your point is well made and was definitely our point back in the day, which is that this is absurd. Like, we wouldn't we're gonna hide the lies.
Yeah, like what do you think I'm sneaking around doing when I'm telling you like forthright up front? It's weird. What?
I'm trying to catch up on this chat, actually.
You want me to catch up on the chat?
Yeah, because there's a lot going on in there. We had a chat rate of 5, Angela. I don't know what a chat rate is, but it was 5.
Oh, is that good?
Yeah, I mean, it's
out of 5 or 10?
I don't know. I don't think I've seen it go past like 7.
Delicate said, did you see how Justin gets to see Taylor's texts?
I did see that. Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier.
I don't think she should turn anything over until Justin starts complying with Discovery. Blake has produced 3 times the amount Justin has.
They'll have the texts are going to be narrowed down. They're not going to provide texts that aren't out of the context of conversations specific to Taylor Swift, Justin Baldoni, and or Wayfarer, the movie, etc., and Blake, or if if imagine if like imagine if they find like that Taylor and Ryan have been texting each other or something. So some kind of like super like awful, you know, this scandalous shit.
Oh my God, I know. Like, remember when the
it would never happen.
Remember when Baldoni's lawyers were telling the court that it would be inappropriate to subpoena all of his text messages for the entire span of time for Blake Lively, and they literally said that they might uncover like a secret affair or something. They were like, we wouldn't be able to tell what is a business conversation versus what is him talking to his mistress. Do you remember?
Yeah, I mean,
and everyone was like, did that lawyer just say he might have a mistress?
Yeah, that was nuts.
Like, I understand the point he was making, but it was really, really poor choice. Stefan said Baldoni's so clearly in the wrong, yet seemingly people are supporting him.
Well, what's interesting about that. Let me like jump to Karen Reed for a minute, because on TMZ, juror number 4, there's like a 10-minute interview on TMZ with juror number 4. And to my utter and complete surprise, he described a bunch of people, who showed up not only believing in her guilt, but many of them thinking that it was a very well played case by Brennan and the Commonwealth. He explained, look, we were limited to the net. Our scope was limited. You guys got to see more than we did. Mm-hmm. So it was based only on what we got to see. But you don't know what people think. You don't know. I don't know how.
Wait, so he was explaining that jurors showed up
believing in her guilt.
Well, why did they pick a jury that has any opinion about her guilt?
No. During deliberations.
I see. And then they talked it through?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm saying that jurors showed up.
Horrible.
Yeah, they showed up.
That's scary.
Wow. They showed up at he said more than one. Multiple jurors showed up.
Oh my God.
With guilt on their minds.
I hope I'm never involved in a trial ever in my life. That's so scary.
I was floored by that.
Well, so did he say what happened? Like, how'd you guys crack them?
He said that they, so first of all, they didn't just take a vote. It was discouraged by the judge. That tactic was discouraged by the judge. And instead, the judge gave them some pointers on how to run their jury room, which included breaking down each charge one by one. And if I understood the interview, if I got the interview right on TMZ today, that juror number 4 said that he believed, that there were multiple people who believed in guilt on all charges, like basically like from murder 2 down. Isn't that wild? It's just impossible to know what people think. Well,
so then what happened? How did they?
We live in a world where it's just like we live in an altered, like where altered reality is reality.
Here's the freaky part about that. So if you watched like a month of a trial, every single day you're in that courtroom, mm-hmm. and you show up in deliberations, you think they're guilty, but then in 3 days, just a few people talking to you who are not lawyers, can convince you otherwise.
Yeah.
What? How? How? Did he say how they convinced them to not?
He said that they went over all the evidence, and that by the time that they had gotten through all the evidence, the only thing that they could all agree on that she was proven to have been guilty of. And he said at one point that, and I don't know if he meant to infer that this was possibly something that was actually said during deliberations, or if he was just clever in the way in which he was offering it to dude at TMZ. But he said that, if a juror, he kind of built it as a hypothetical, if a juror was 99.9% sure of any one of the charges, then we could not convict. And so, so they really like got into the
that's interesting.
Granularity. Mm-hmm. Writer, my ass.
I got you.
My ass. The granularity of reasonable doubt. He asked, did Harvey from TMV of juror number 4, whether or not juror number 4 believed that Karen was innocent, and he said that he did believe that she was innocent. He said he did not believe that John O'Keefe was hit by a car, or by that car, or by any car.
Yeah, I don't believe so either.
But there are jurors that did think it was a plausible scenario. It's wild to me. It's absolutely fucking wild to me that there is. So I digress.
And so what they did was they chipped away at their lack of total certainty
in order to get. I mean, look, the facts were overwhelmingly in favor of a reasonable doubt.
No. I'm just saying, how did they cracked open these she's guilty jurors?
Yeah.
By chipping away at their lack of complete and total certainty.
Yes.
Where they were like, even if you're a fraction.
Well, they would present the evidence and then say,
uncertain.
Does that evidence leave you with even so much as 1/10 of 1 percentage point of doubt? Was more or less what he inferred. So they went over the evidence and they were like,
well, that's brilliant. I wish that.
Yeah, it's perfect.
I have a feeling that a lot of juries don't deliberate that way, and that seems like a really.
Why do you feel that way?
Well, because
of 12 Angry Men. I saw that movie. Ain't no fucking way.
Well, I'm saying that because there's a lot of people who were exonerated for violent crimes.
Yeah.
And spent like a decade in jail or something before some, Innocence Project or whatever.
DNA, whatever it is.
Yeah. So they obviously were innocent.
Fleck.
When they went in.
Fleck? The guy from, what's his name? The guy who was on OJ's team? Barry Schleck? Sheck?
I don't know.
Could be.
I don't know who Barry Sheck is a name I've heard. I don't know if it's the one you're talking about.
So anyway, one of those attorneys on O.J. Simpson.
I love that you're asking me because I know a lot of stuff sometimes, and I know like a lot of really trivial things that don't actually matter. And you always ask me like I'm supposed to know the name of everybody on O.J. Simpson's team.
So Barry. I know Barry is his first name.
Now I gotta look it up. Damn it! Now I'm gonna learn.
He became like a big time DNA, like getting people off of bad raps.
Yes, Barry Sheck of the Innocence Project.
And the Innocence Project, yeah, he
served on OJ's defense.
He was brilliant. He was brilliant. I admired him so much. He was like F.E. Bailey in his own right. Do you know who I'm talking about when I say F.E. Bailey, Angela?
He has a great...
That guy was like a fucking character out of a movie.
This guy
you guys remember that?
This guy has a great face.
Barry Sheck?
Yes.
Yeah.
He has like he looks a lot like the guy you would cast in the role to play Barry Sheck.
I shall cast Barry Sheck to play Barry Sheck, of course.
Like he just looks exactly like the job he does.
Delicate says, oh wait, where are we? There'll be no Taylor T. LOL. I think we'll just see that she supported a friend. Yeah, there won't be any Taylor T.
Cosmic Urgency said, there will be tea and it will be served hot.
There won't be any goddamn tea. Those guys are, I think if like this is going to be, what the kind of tea we might get is the kind of tea that we got between Higgins and Karen. Like not naughty tea. I'm talking
Oh my God, that's so funny that you even categorize it as naughty tea because they're like sexy texting was the most dull and fucking boring and most pointless.
It was so awful.
I can't believe that everybody had to watch this like cringy.
He's like trying to get her to say it. Just say it, woman. He's like sitting there like sending text being, tell me you want me.
They were so bored with each other. The whole time I was like, what are you guys even doing this for? There's no chemistry whatsoever.
It wasn't boredom.
Neither of you are interested.
It wasn't boredom. He wanted it so bad and she knew it. Like I saw that totally differently. I
he
saw
wasn't
so
even
much
eager
tension.
though. He was just like,
dude, there was so much tension from him.
Avoidant.
Angela, he could barely handle it.
Yes, but he was avoidant, and she should have been like, "Oh well, I guess you're not interested."
He's not avoidant. I'm telling you, you're misreading him. His whole play was trying to get. They were each trying to get, the other to confess.
Dale's going to be our shy guy translator because he is a lifelong shy guy.
They were junior high sexy texting. And that exactly. It was exactly like that.
It was like that, yeah.
It was exactly like that.
I think you're cute.
Yeah.
Really? You think I'm cute? No, I think you're cute.
It's even worse than that because they were like, I think you're hot. Yeah, you think I'm hot. And then, and then they're like, but they want to take it to the next level. It's like putting your hand on the knee kind of thing, like trying to get your hand on the knee.
That'll get your heart rate up.
Oh, yeah. It'll get you fucking dizzy, bro. So I guarantee you that Higgins was an absolute mess. First of all, look at Higgins. And I'm not trying to be mean here, but I'm guessing there weren't a lot of women at Karen Reed's caliber lining up at the door to get some of that. Well, she's a cute woman. She's got She has appeal. I mean, she's not my type, if you want to know. But, she's generally speaking an attractive woman. You would disagree?
No, I just thought caliber was a funny way to put it.
She's high quality. That's what I'm trying to say. She's high quality stuff.
That's a long joke. I mean, that's an old joke that Dale's been saying ever since Trump's first term, when he called his wife high quality.
He called Melania a high quality.
And I was spouse. Like, well, there you have it. That's how this guy fucking thinks.
That's right. Polish that up. Take it to the high quality wife wash. Get her washed.
Yeah. On the menu, when he ordered her.
Yeah.
She was in the high quality.
Sure, yeah, because now you got me on the Russian Brides. Now you're like flipping through, you'd be like, like this.
That's kind of how it was
in the millions. Like sure. She was obviously in the millions. Taylor Swift, catching into some of this, is going to be fine, and those texts aren't going to be any help. I suspect there won't be any help to Justin Baldoni or to anyone.
Oh, but they're going to read into them. Because like Dr. Susan was saying, they're paranoid. and you just cannot underestimate Justin Baldoni's ability to turn absolutely nothing into a horrible offense. He said it in his own book, his Correct. Own memoir. Yeah. I hope they use that against him, because he's admitting that he has this really weird, skewed view of the world where he's constantly under attack. And I just hope that maybe they get to use that and be like, hey, maybe the jury might see it the way that we're seeing it, and that's that you're paranoid and that you're kind of deluded by your own paranoia.
Yeah. I'm letting the chat pull me all over the place, because now I'm back in my head, I'm back in Karen Reed, and I'm just
well, too bad.
I'm a bumpy back.
You're a what?
A bumpy back? I pictured like a bumpy back, up and down. I'm a roller coaster, but I'm not, I'm a bumpy back. No?
No.
Sorry guys, I just had to go for it. It was like a
Did you do it real close?
Yeah. Well, I think Angela's so right. He feels under attack all the time. He talked about it quite openly in his book, and his whole behavior, his whole like big reaction, reading these new texts that are going between all of the publicists now, including this Texan. It's wild to me that it's just like, it's wild to me how absolutely reactionary this whole thing was. Like, this could have been avoided. This could have been avoided by simply not being reactionary. The reaction he should have had was to mend and heal and to correct and to guide, and to lead,
I just think it's such
he's got this retaliatory mind.
Yeah. I think it's such a perfect, it's such like a perfect analogy for the type of downfall. I don't know if it's like hubris or what, but like the whole time that he thought she was coming for his project and his professional reputation.
Yeah.
It was in fact him that was coming for his project and his professional reputation.
Every time. I mean, more or less every time.
Like, it's such a self-fulfilling prophecy where he was like, oh man, if this keeps going on, and he's thinking about what she's doing, we're going to lose everything. But it's like, really, if this keeps going on, what he's doing, we're going to lose everything.
You know what's really fucked up is, like, in a movie, movies themselves are just like large, beautiful collaborations. Clearly, they are. They're often, in my view, I believe that they're often either, in some ways restricted, or, like clipping the wings, if you will, of the film when you interfere with collaboration where it feels almost as if the universe is bringing it to bear.
Yes. Yeah, this is
not like the nippy AD who's trying to become the director, or not. You know what I mean? I'm talking about like where we have, for example, a talent like Blake Lively, where it was so clear, like when you look at these texts, it's very clear to me as somebody who's lived in this world for a period that there was she was having a moment of like creative belonging, where there was a bit of destiny at play here for her. This was for her a transformative moment, and she knew it. She didn't know it was going to turn into what it turned into, obviously, I think on all fronts, I don't know that she expected the success it was going to be. Do you know?
Yeah.
And she certainly didn't anticipate all of this. Who she wouldn't have taken the job. But I do think she felt a sense of destiny. Something big was afoot for her. And I guess I've lost track about why that matters.
I just think it's really, excuse me. I just think it's really, really funny to me that he was like, that his paranoia about what she was doing, right, put him on the attack.
As opposed to being a collaborative artist.
And he was so worried that if she was going to speak out about what she endured on his set, that it would ruin his reputation and his career. But by going on the attack to stop her from doing that, he's put into motion the exact set of events that he might have avoided if he had just not been paranoid about what she was doing.
And just like, and the obvious and easiest correction was to play the role that he made for himself as this,
the most obvious and easiest correction
in
any case like this is to take responsibility and to pull in everything, all of his assets, to pull in everything and sort of like get everything under control. But instead he kept focusing outwards because he felt like he was under attack. Like however wrongly, in his memoir, he's talking about how he has to wear a suit of armor because he feels like he's under attack all the time.
Yeah.
Well, it's like he's thinking outwardly about that armor. He's not thinking about what's protected inside. So I just feel like figuratively, if he's going to use figurative language like that, it's weird that he's not thinking of it in the terms of like what he had control over that he could have protected. Like if he's talking about armor, like, dude, build a fortress then. Like if you think she's a bad actor, like not actor, but like fortify your business and your everything that you're doing and make it so that it's impenetrable. But instead he just like went and like was like shooting arrows over there, and then like he just completely depleted all of his own strength.
I think that's the vanity in play. Like I think that's him like worried about himself, worried about his image, worried about him, and not really looking at the whole field of play and understanding what's actually going on, the dynamic of it, and how it actually is feeding into something that was probably very good as opposed to something that was bad. And obviously, as we can't get away from the catalyst, which was sexual harassment. All he had to do was put a mechanism in play to make sure that was both solved to the extent that the parties were happy, that it had been paid attention to, and that the resolution was to their satisfaction, and then a mechanism to make sure that it never happened again.
Exactly.
That's it. Is there two things you got to add? Two little fucking gizmos, gadgets to your production, and then you're smooth sailing to this huge success.
I'm just a little embarrassed for him because like I said, like before, we have very similar natal charts. And like, I'm just embarrassed for him that he lacks the strategy and the forethought. Huh?
You're way better looking.
Thanks. I just feel like I would think about this a little bit more strategically. Like why didn't he look at this with the big picture in mind? Like he never really gauged what he had to lose by taking such a big risk and going on the attack. Does he not realize that like every single person who's ever written anything or had any experience in actual warfare, whether like literal or figurative, or business or whatever, they always talk about the best offense is a great defense, and they always talk about how the best strategy for war is to avoid conflict.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why he wasn't
That's how I feel.
Why wasn't he like trying to mediate? Why wasn't he trying to like get everybody at a table and try and smooth everything over? Like it just seems so counterintuitive to how I would think of things like this, And it's weird we're so similar, but he completely fucked it.
I think it's because he's somebody who will easily who can't blame himself, who can't see himself as the blame. I think he might, and I'm speculating obviously, but
even when he knows he's at fault, even when he knows he's the source of their discomfort, he made them uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't think he believes the accusations. I think he looks at other people as people who, like, how they tried to put the spin out that, this after a lot of the commotion. I think there's a little confusion. We here in the Baha'i faith are kind of touchy-feely. We hug.
We're huggers.
We're huggers. You see what I'm saying? Like, so there's this idea that like it's not what you think, it's what I think. And
I don't think it was an actual I think that's just for us to consume that story. I think he knows what he did made people uncomfortable. I think he knows that I think he was trying to put the moves on the younger actress and like held his hand on her thigh too long and told her she looked hot when he was directing her to do a sex scene. Like, I think he knows exactly how fucking creepy he was being. I think he knows that he stepped over the line. It's
pretty interesting to be this like that he spends so much time. It's pride, said Delicate, and that's where I'm going. It's pride. He has this like, no, I'm not. It's not me. It's you. You know. I think he thinks everyone like. I think he's the kind of person who thinks that like every woman. Why wouldn't you want to sleep with him? Why wouldn't you want to sleep with him? He's so beautiful. And he's got this deep voice, and he can growl on you, and like he is so like this is his mind, not yours.
I know. That's
like,
gotta be it.
I knew guys like this.
No, dude, it's fucking gotta be it. That's gotta be it. But that comes before he realizes he's made somebody uncomfortable, and then they're telling him to change the way he operates his sets so that they don't have to be made uncomfortable anymore. So like at that point,
in his brain, he's
why
thinking,
isn't he trying to just at that point be like, whoa, okay, obviously some shit got fucked up and like we need to bring everybody in. I don't know why they didn't try and mediate and instead we're like, gonna put the hammer down.
Yeah, I think it's because that would take a certain amount of admission of guilt or like.
But he would have been able to preserve everything that he built, and all of it is gone now. I
can rationalize this because I can too. We're talking about him.
I know. I don't know how people think.
Stop being incredulous.
I don't know how Karen Reed's jurors showed up in deliberations thinking she was guilty. I just do. I don't understand people.
It's wild.
I am alone in this world. I don't get anybody.
It's a super wild thing, that's for sure. He is. I think he's a bit of a lost soul. And when you see somebody who can take like something as incredible as It Ends With Us, in terms of all of the kismet that laid out for him to land such an incredibly coveted IP, intellectual property.
Yeah.
For him to then land such a huge high up A-list, like she's top 3 in her category, probably.
Yeah, you're saying that Sony put her name forward because she's bankable,
and that she would take the project. Like right. These people have like they're when you were at her level, she's not at that level right now. She got knocked off of it by this project, but when she was at that level, they're the first to see. They get the scripts first. They get to see most scripts first. They get to see most properties first. Their agents get an enormous amount of privilege, and so landing these stars, as anyone might imagine, is a fucking incredibly difficult thing to do, and you kind of have to have everything, and everything has to be in play, because they're not just approving the property. The property's just one thing. A lot of times, in fact, properties will stay in development for years, sometimes decades, sometimes never get made because some of the people attached won't relinquish the kind of creative control that they want in terms of their involvement. Like, what I'm saying is, for example, Blake Lively gets presented with the movie, and this is what's very interesting about it. And this is why I think, like, a long time ago, I put out the theory that Blake Lively, when she first met with Justin Baldoni, saw not only that this was this huge IP, but that she had man enough guy behind her. She had the guy she needed to level up her game in the behind the scenes stuff. Yeah. That's always been my position with this situation, and it tracks, because if you're going to land a big star, they have so much control over things like the director. Like, if they don't like the director, they don't fucking do the job. And
if I was her and I saw even just one episode of his podcast, I would be like, oh, this is definitely the guy who's going to support me as I try to climb into my new shoes as a producer, as a film producer. And did
she not show up and ask for a producer credit immediately?
Yeah.
And did she not eventually get a producer credit?
And they were like totally like slow dancing, and they're like, they were so were collaborating beautifully in the beginning.
We saw the texts. We heard the voicemail. We talked. He's
fucking voicemail is so inappropriate. But.
And we saw all the interviews in which he praises her abilities behind the camera and how she was very much the person bailing him out of losing control because he was too deep into his character.
Okay, so we know why she took the role. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
But then...
No, I'm talking about him. This obviously came up when I was speaking about squandering these huge opportunities. It takes so much to land the star. Like, the director is a big deal.
Yeah.
So that she was okay with him as a director with such little experience spoke a lot about what she thought she was getting into.
This is what's infuriating about the way that he absolutely fucking fumbled this entire...
Yes.
He could have used, even the controversy, he could have used as a springboard to improve his image. If he had just not gone about it by lashing out at her and trying to sue her and coming up with all these, like, very obviously false allegations. It's just like...
Do you have Blake Lively's and or... Ryan Reynolds' response to their getting married at a plantation by any chance? Guilty Angel just brought it up, and I think a lot of people, and I want to, if we have it, I can look it up. Want me to look it up?
I can look it up. I don't think it's very useful because,
I would like to get it on tape right now because, Guilty Angel is like saying the plantation marriage had me sick. And this is the part of like, well, first of all, two things about that. So, and by the way, Guilty Angel, I totally get it. It's just terrible. And right. So let's think about it for a second though. That made her that moment, that mistake, which they admit, by the way, you can, I think, be...
Okay, you call it a mistake, but like The Notebook was filmed at that same plantation. They had a bunch. They have a bunch of like private parties and weddings all the time at that place.
It's a mistake.
So like I know that they should have known better, but like a bunch of huge people have been using that plantation for private events. Here's the thing about plantation.
Not an excuse for me. It's a mistake.
Maybe people don't really realize this about the Southeast. If you want to be someplace where it's a private property, so you can have your private wedding with all your fancy pants friends, and you also want to enjoy those like that aisle of like those really old oaks with all the Spanish moss that's hanging off of them, with these like really beautiful gnarly trees that are like hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
The only place where you can access these, the only place where they haven't in the century since they were planted been bulldozed for like strip malls, is in a plantation, because those are private properties that have been maintained to continue to look beautiful.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's just really frustrating.
Who cares? Like, you can't get married in them. You're a fucking celebrity.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But like when people are looking for beautiful destinations so that their wedding photography looks incredible, there's just not so many places in the United States that hasn't been completely like either public lands where you can't really host a celebrity party, or
I don't think there's an excuse. If you want that, you can, and the only place you can get it is on a plantation, then you can't have it. That's my view. If you're stupid enough to get married on a plantation, then you're going to feel the wrath of that, because plantations are places where people were tortured. Plantations are an embodiment of an evil.
No, it's like having your wedding.
We can't comprehend.
It's like having your wedding at a concentration camp.
It's that exactly. You wouldn't do that, would you? Even if the moss was real pretty. So I don't care that the pictures come out nice. It's a total mistake. There's no excuse for it. And yes, Reese Witherspoon made the same mistake, and others made the same mistake. But I mean, it like, I'm incensed by the idea that these extremely privileged people don't take the fucking time to stop and think about what they're doing, because they have, they're what they're doing is influential. And I'm
gonna find this for you right now.
So as a matter of fact, when we first started talking about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, I was openly upset about this. You can look at my Baldoni posts, the few that I have on TikTok. You can look at them and see them. I'm totally upset about the plantation wedding. But the reality is that they knew they made a mistake. They realized the gravity of that mistake.
It's like,
and they answered to it in a way that I felt was beyond satisfactory. Because although getting married at a plantation is a mistake, it does not mean that they're racists. It does not mean that they're they have no compassion, or they have no empathy, or they have no sensitivity, or any of that. There's some ignorance at play, obviously, but it doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means that they overlooked something that they're insensitive to. And this is the other part of it. And I'll tell you, Ryan Reynolds, it'd be real easy for Ryan Reynolds to be insensitive to, because Canadians don't spend a lot of time immersed in the slave history.
No, it's true. If you open up a wedding magazine, right, a destination wedding magazine, these sorts of places will always show up because they're absolutely gorgeous. And like I said, like The Notebook was filmed there. They chose that location for that film because it's so romantic. You know, obviously,
it was also set in the time.
If you completely divorce the location from its history, it's an ideal place for a wedding. But you can't divorce the location from its history, and so that's why he's getting criticism. So I found a portion of a statement. I tried to find the whole statement that he made, but I can't find the link to that article. Do you want to hear what he said?
This is Ryan Reynolds responding to getting married at a plantation?
Yes, in an interview with Fast Company.
Okay. Yeah, let's hear it.
Wait, let me see. Is that a link? Oh, here we are. Never mind, it's paywalled. Going back. Okay. He said, "It's something we'll always be deeply and unreservedly sorry for. It's impossible to reconcile. What we saw at the time was a wedding venue on Pinterest. What we saw after was a place built upon devastating tragedy. Years ago, we got married again at home, but shame works in weird ways. A giant fucking mistake like that can either cause you to shut down, or it can reframe things and move you into action. It doesn't mean you won't fuck up again, but repatterning and challenging lifelong social conditioning is a job that doesn't end." And so he also announced that they donated $200,000 to the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund. And they issued a social media statement saying, "We're ashamed that in the past we've allowed ourselves to be uninformed about how deeply rooted systemic racism is." This is on Blake Lively's. She talks about how raising kids and trying to prepare them for this, to have this kind of knowledge has been very challenging, but they've learned from it. It's a long statement. Do you want me to read this whole thing?
I think that's enough. They deeply regret it.
Also, another thing too, I'm sorry. Reynolds also told Fast Company that his production company Maximum Effort is focusing on diverse hiring and equity within the company. He said representation and diversity need to be completely immersive. Like, it needs to be embedded at the root of storytelling, and that's in both marketing and Hollywood. When you add perspective and insight that isn't your own, you grow, and you grow your company too. And so he started all of these diversity initiatives within his company.
Yeah, look, I don't care about Ryan Reynolds one way or another, but all of that it sounds super legit to me. Ryan Reynolds is not involved in my life. He'll never be involved in my life, is my guess. Objectively, I thought his response was well thought out, and he spoke to me, or he spoke about what I believe to be one of like the lesser talked about problems, which is the way in which we're raised into the ignorance of racism, or
yeah, dude, you and I both grew up for like decades. All that anybody ever talked about was color blindness. And that doesn't help anybody.
No.
It was only just relatively recently in our lives that we learned that color blindness is actually why these problems persist. Like color blindness, like when people are like, "Oh, I don't see color." Well, you fucking need to, if you're going to confront these problems, So I think that's probably a lot about what he was talking about, where he was just like, yeah, blindness is it's just a lot easier for parents to teach their kids blindness as opposed to confronting the actual issues. I think it's very challenging for a lot of parents to try and, like, parents don't even want to talk about sex with their kids. Like, they're going to talk about systemic racism. I mean, it's really fucking heavy.
Yeah, and then you've got, the political side of it, keeping it out of the schools, and all of a sudden now, people don't know what the fuck's going on, or they're just don't even, they're not aware of the racism that's saturated in their culture. And that's the problem that most people don't recognize, is that they're raised racist, that they're raised misogynist. I had to shed all that stuff. You have to, you shed your father, you shed your mother, and
it's just, it sets people, like, kids to grow up as adults and then have one of these kinds of experiences where they're confronted with their hidden biases that they didn't realize were, like, getting them into trouble, and then they have to try and fix it.
If there's actual arguing going on in the chat right now, then that's not cool with me. Just saying. If you guys are arguing, I don't think that's cool.
I think Guilty Angel just feels very strongly about this topic.
Well, it's okay. You can feel strongly about this topic, but we're all friends.
Guilty Angel said, "Bite me."
Please don't let like Blake Lively or fucking Justin Baldoni ruin your day. Or your relationships.
Well, also, like, Guilty Angel, didn't we just talk about the astrology making everybody feel really, like, fiery?
Yeah. Like,
everybody just needs to chill. Everything's cool. You got to just not let anything perturb you.
Yeah.
Bruce Lee said, maybe it wasn't Bruce, maybe he was just quoting somebody else, but he was talking about how he went in his speech about be water, Yeah. Where he was like, I don't know, maybe I'm conflating these things. You can edit this out because I actually don't know what I'm talking about. But there's that analogy where, if you're a small pool of water and somebody chucks a rock into it, it's just going to displace everything and you're going to be splashed everywhere. You got to be a bigger pool of water. So if somebody chucks a rock into it, it just makes little ripples that don't even reach the edge.
Yeah.
That's what it's got to be.
Yeah.
Don't get rippled.
Yeah.
Don't get splashed.
Let me speak to chat for a minute. Don't get fighty with each other. What are you guys doing? Don't fight each other.
Guilty Angel.
Angel, stop it.
Erica, bite me too.
Just stop it, dude.
I mean,
like, what are you doing?
Take a break. You know what I mean?
Like, take a break. If you got to take a break, take a break. Like, there's no need for this, and it's making me uncomfortable.
Cosmic Urgency said, Jerry.
Come on, man.
It's not fun, man.
We're going to be covering this trial, Guilty Angel, and I'm telling you right now that I'm not on Baldoni's side of the fence on this at all. And I also think that that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds aren't bad people.
Yeah, I think they probably agree with us that racism is bad and learning about racism is good.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're doing.
I don't know why people hate people they don't know, but I have to live with that every fucking day. Every day I got to live with people who hate me, who don't know me, who hate my work and haven't even seen it. Just because some fucking big asshole says to. Mm. So, I'm not fucking, I'm not cool with that. And I don't understand why anybody would allow like somebody outside of themselves to influence them so much so that they would create disruptions in their friendships and the people that they're hanging around. I don't understand why that would happen. I don't fucking get it. Like, I watch Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively tear people apart. They're fucking scrapping in our chats on TikTok and now here. You're going to let these people fuck up your day?
Here's the thing that you should know about these people is that they're very rich. They're very well supported. They have whole teams to help them live their best life.
Yeah.
If you're upset at one or another of them, it does not matter. It matters to you because it ruins your day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They can get you all upset and have you in real arguments with people. Like people are arguing here, but it doesn't fucking affect them. They're not hearing you. We are. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't affect them.
I just think it's fucking ridiculous to let these guys get you pissed off. Like, who gives a fuck? And I'm a little protective of everybody here. I don't want anybody. I'm glad Cosmic Urgency is busting it up with Jerry.
Because that's what it's like. On Jerry's Finger, it was like there was never a reason to fight. It's never a good reason.
No, of course not. And there isn't here. Look, man, Justin Baldoni's in my opinion, he's a first-rate piece of shit. And his buddy Justin Heath is no different.
Jamie Heath, yeah.
Or Jamie Heath is no different. These men had.
Oh, he's the worst kind because he's the kind who he's really good at making all of the other pieces of shit around him feel like they're not so bad, and that they're recognizing how they're pieces of shit means that they're actually good people. So he's like, he launders everybody else's guilt. That's the worst kind. Instead of like holding a mirror up and being like, you need to do better. You need to fix what you did wrong.
I'm trying to figure out why people hate Blake Lively so much. Like, I can get why you might not like her. Like, why you might like, she's not your type, style, taste, whatever. You don't like her acting or whatever. You know, that's all good. I've literally spent no time paying attention to her until this trial. I knew that she was Leo's boyfriend or girlfriend at one point. So that, you know, kept her even further from my interest. But,
according to Guilty Angel, she went to high school with her and she was openly racist. And it's just like, I
don't believe it.
I just can't imagine that anybody should be held to the standards of how they behaved in high school. Listen, high school is a fucking war zone. High school is the worst place. High school brings out the worst in everybody. And I also feel like people can grow up and learn how to not be the judgmental or nasty people that they were in high school. I've seen it a bunch of times.
Well, racism is a bit more of a problem for me. If you're an actual racist and you are a racist at like any point in your life where where it's not the formidable years, I guess high school could be considered.
I know, but
formidable.
Didn't you know people in high school that used to like
formidable?
Yep.
Yeah.
Didn't you know people in high school that used to like fight by using incendiary words deliberately in order to upset people?
To provoke, yeah.
Yeah, to be provocative by using words. It wasn't that they actually believed any of the things that they were saying, but they knew that it was going to make the other person angry. Yeah. I think a lot of people react that way. Here's the thing about...
That's a pretty unhinged fucking brain, isn't it?
Here's the thing about teens. They are just figuring out how to navigate communicating and being independent all on their own.
Yeah, and dealing with anger and confrontation.
In like the 3 years of high school, it's like the worst time to be testing those very new, very bad skills. So yeah, teenagers have a reputation for being shitheads because they often struggle to fucking learn how to do this shit right. And so that's why I'm not holding anybody to the standards of how they fucking behaved in high school because they were new at this, you know? They were just beginners at how to be people. I don't believe that that's something that anybody should do. If you're a shithead in high school, there's a lot of time in between high school and, you know,
there are lines that can be crossed that might bleed into your adult life. There are things you can do that might be, but yes, I would say ultimately you're not going to be the same person. I would not want my I would not want my character judged on my 15-year-old self, my 18-year-old self, my 25-year-old self. Like, I've been nothing but evolving as I've grown. I've only learned more about what I dislike and what I like and what I care about, what I'm principled by. So, and I think that's true for most people who at least embrace that part of life, the growth of life. You know?
Yeah, I also feel like I give a lot of, I don't know, like grace to like teen girls. Like the whole mean girl phase is just a part of development where people have to figure out like how, like you're just discovering that words are powerful and that you have influence on other people. And so a lot of people will practice using that kind of like, it's like a new magic, you know?
Stefan is saying that all the bad people I know from high school are normal, well-adjusted people now. Yeah, I mean, this is it. I mean, obviously we grow. Like I said, there are things like, you know, for example, Mark Wahlberg, I don't know how old he was, but if you're going to beat somebody to within an inch of their life over their race, I'm going to have a hard time ever liking you. Like, I can't. Like, it's not so much like about like being like, oh, he can change. Like, I know he can change. That's cool. I just don't want him on my TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't want him in my shit.
Like, you've traumatized somebody?
Like,
yeah,
severely traumatized somebody. Not just traumatized somebody.
That's
but
different.
He beat somebody to within an inch of their life, and they've come out and said about what Mark Wahlberg that they have forgiven him, and everything's cool. That doesn't make it cool with me. You know what I mean? That doesn't make him cool with me. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, as far as I'm concerned, like, you know, like it's like Peyton Manning. He took his testicles out and he put them on a girl's shoulder at a fucking frat house party to embarrass her, to sexually humiliate her.
Yeah, he's canceled. Fuck that guy.
Canceled. Like, I have no use for that kind of a human being. Like, you know, come on, man. You know, we're not talking high school. We're not talking junior high school. We're not talking about the, you know, those years when you're like unsure, when you're trying to fit in, or when peer pressure and, and then the moment passes. And, these are all real issues that we learn to deal with as we're growing up if we're exposed to these kinds of things. This is an adult male at a college.
Yeah, that's different.
And when people talk about frat, like, you're fucking adults. You're adults at that point.
No, that's what I'm saying about high school years. Is that those are really fucking formative years where people get it wrong a lot. Like, you're not the same person that you were in fucking high school. I'm sorry. Like, and the whole mean girl trope, like, sometimes that's just a stage of development that teen girls have to go through because they're just trying to figure out how to be independent. And it doesn't mean it doesn't mean the same thing to everybody at the beginning. But you fucking figure it out and you realize, like, what to do and what not to do. And I just feel like judging high school kids is just fucking lame. The worst is when parents do it, when they're like, oh God, I got teenagers at home. It's like, bro, don't you fucking remember what it was like?
They don't.
It was fucking
That's
horrible.
That's what Don's Plum's all about, is throwing our past in their face, like, throwing their own past in their face by looking at us as if they're looking in a mirror. I mean, that's what the whole movie's about.
Yeah, Tanner said Mark Wahlberg was 21 years old.
Yeah, he was 21 years old.
He doesn't get a pass.
Fuck you forever. Absolutely never are you ever going to be okay. Like when I found that out about that guy, it was done. It was a wrap. And I'll publicly forever call him a fucking piece of shit. If Hollywood came, oh, Dale, we're going to bring you back, and then they found out that I'm publicly against that fucking guy, and so then I got, like, blacklisted again, I'd tip my fucking hat, see you later. Like, I can't. Like, and it's one thing. Like, I've loved a racist. My former father-in-law, loved him dearly. And he was a born racist. He was born into it, lived in that state of mind his entire life. He was so much of a racist, he was one of those racists who didn't even know he was a racist. The racist with black friends, if you will. But straight up racist to his core, and I loved him with my heart. He would never, ever harm another human being.
Did you feel pity for him?
So much. And anger toward him, and we fought so much. Like we like argued, but we argued a lot. Like,
I feel like people who are, like, vocally racist, like outright, like outwardly racist. I just feel it's like they're kind of pathetic. Like, I just feel pity for them. Because you could tell that, like, in all their, like, posturing, that it's just fear-based. Like, they're just scared.
Or is it fear-based? I don't even know what it is.
It's fear of the unknown. It's like the same thing with, like, xenophobia. Everybody's talking about, like, they're afraid of, like, immigrants crossing our borders, and it's like, you just don't know what you're talking about, and so you're scared of it. It's just sad, Like,
I don't get it. Cosmic Origins is saying this after Dale was ranting about Alicia Silverstone yesterday. What was I ranting about? I don't even remember. I didn't get to that part in my cutting of the yesterday's stuff. I do remember talking about Alicia.
Oh, no, you were talking about how world peace. If
world peace is going to be achieved through not eating meat, because, like, religion's not the problem. Fucking religion's not the problem. It's beef. Beef is the problem. If you would just stop eating the beef. You see, you got me going again, bro. Hey, listen, I'm a vegetarian now, more or less. I mean, I'm 99% plant-based, I guess you could say, or 95% plant-based. We have a little cheese every now and then, and a little butter, and I eat the fish sauce, and that's pretty much where it ends at this point.
What are you talking about? You're gonna go down the list.
I said I'm a vegetarian.
Yeah, but nobody's, like, checking.
No, I'm getting to my point.
Nobody's, like, checking your ingredients.
I'm getting to my point.
Okay.
No, I'm just saying I'm getting to my point. I don't know now. Now you just knock me off that shit. I was in the office every day in middle school. I had like 165 office trips in 1 year. I was so bad in middle school. I failed a grade in middle school. And yeah, man, I was fighting. I was smoking weed. I was getting suspended. I was self-destructing. But I was self-destructing over like a really tough childhood. That's really all that was.
Yeah, you see what I mean? It's like a lot of these people who are, like, acting out also are really struggling with fucking big situations at home. Like,
sure, that can happen.
You know what I mean? Like,
but if you're dropping racial slurs with hatred in your tone.
Okay, yes, but I know that you have seen people who get into a fight and then they pull out, like, the weakest flimsiest.
One of my closest friends did it, drop the N-word.
Yes.
And he remained my friend.
And the only reason that they do it is because they're trying to upset the other person and they want to come up with the quickest way to do it.
Literally the talk I had with him.
And it's pathetic and it's sad. And but those people are not like,
let's get a hold of
there's
yourself.
not like hatred in their heart for the person's race.
No.
They're just trying to have a fucking argument. They're trying to hurt. Yeah.
They're trying to create pain for another person and they know that will work. Yeah.
And I also
pretty fucked up.
I also feel like especially teenage girls. I want to talk more about this whole mean girl thing.
Cosmic Urgency said that I was ranting about a teenage Alicia Silverstone dropping me. Do you agree?
Dropping you? What does that mean?
I don't know. I guess he's talking about the fact that I guess I was talking about how I don't even know because we weren't even that close. We were just friends.
Like, oh yeah, no, she didn't remember you, and then she said she remembered you.
Oh well, yeah, that's just a funny remark. I couldn't give a shit. I didn't back then. It's just a funny comment. It's weird. It's weird how some things stick to people.
I want to talk about the teenage mean girl thing.
Yeah,
for a little while.
Let's talk about it.
Okay, so I don't know how many of you guys have had this experience. A lot of times it is a ubiquitous young girl experience where like you hit like maybe you're a preteen or a teenager, but one day you wake up and it's like the switch has flipped and now everybody looks at you because you're a young girl and now you've blossomed somehow.
Yeah.
And it's really fucking weird and it's really off-putting. And a lot of girls, I believe, will turn into this, will try on the persona of the mean girl as a defensive mechanism because they really just want to be left the fuck alone. They want to be able to like have pimples and like
was ridiculously
be awkward and not be like scrutinized constantly. And so a lot of people will get mean because it means that everybody just keeps their distance a little. It means that their parents stop fucking bothering them. It means that their siblings stop bothering them. Maybe the, you know, whoever else, right?
Yeah.
So I think that that's why the mean girl trope exists in the first place is typically it's like pretty girls will try this on as like an armor to keep people away because we're being so scrutinized all of a sudden.
Of course.
And it's really fucking difficult to deal with.
I understand that. I mean, I've been subject to it, you know.
And so like I just don't feel like these things are everlasting because like teens will try on these different like methods of communication in order to get the response that they want, and they're all just trying stuff out.
I have this great scene. You just reminded me of this scene. You know, like I talk about, you know, when I talk about people in writing and all this stuff, one of the things I talk about is, you know, writing, you know, what you know by like putting experiences in a box and putting them away till later. And the one I have is this extraordinary like period where I was going to this restaurant trying to court a server who was just this drop dead gorgeous girl, and I just wanted to meet her. And I don't know, maybe I was 18 or 19 years old or whatever. So I was just going constantly, and I finally got the opportunity to date her. And I asked her out, and she said yes, and we went on a date, and then we were, you know, I don't know where we went, but we're kind of like parking lot or whatever. And I was like, oh, you know, like, do I make a move on her or what do I do? And so I'm sitting next to her and I think she was driving. I don't know. I can't remember who was driving. But I was like, oh, I make a move on her. And this is what's going on in my head. And
make a move on her? What does that mean?
Well, because, you know, like you're whatever. I was like 18 years old. I'm like, what do I do? Like, I don't even know what the fuck to do, right? I'm on a date. We had a good time. We had a few drinks. Now I think we're supposed to have sex now, aren't we? Or something.
Or something. Nobody knows. Where's the manual?
Sex, like, yeah, there's no manual. Like, what do I do? I think I know this is a checkbox and that's a checkbox, but here we are. What do I do? So I'm sitting in the car with that tension in the car, and she just starts crying.
She was crying in your car?
She just started crying. She just started to cry. Like as I was like contemplating like making a move, I was like sitting there going, what do I do? I put my arm around her, put my hand on her knee. What do I do? Man, like I'm feeling like there's tension here, and I'm thinking it's the good tension. It was not the good tension. She just began to cry. And then I was like, well, what's happening to you? Like, what is going on? Like, I was like, holy fuck. And she basically was like, I wanted to hang out with you, but I don't really have any kind of other interest in you. I just think you're a funny guy, and I just wanted to hang out with you. And
made her cry?
And it made her cry because like she knew that I was sitting there like testosterone building, and she was like
horrible.
It made her cry. It was like a big eye-opening moment for me.
Okay, so then what happened?
Oh, I said, well, we'll be friends. You know me. I fucking told her, okay, we'll be friends. I mean, that's cool. You don't have to.
Like, you could have told me and not, like,
I mean,
been upset.
I'll come by tomorrow, too. I didn't. But, that was pretty much the end of our friendship.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing that sucks is you don't get to keep friends. It's fucking lame.
I'm immediately self-conscious now that Cosmic Urgency said I was ranting about Alicia Silverstone.
Everybody loves your rants. Jerry. Stefan said, I think a lot of racism is misdirected anger about societal inequalities. This is true. When you're talking about like actual racism, this is true. I think there's a lot of people who are just ignorant and use racist like buzzwords as like a defense.
Biggest fight with my former in-laws about what was their. I was like, you aren't. The most of this shit comes out of your mouth is socioeconomic.
No, it's true. Your enemy is not that guy over there. No. Your enemy are the people who created the conditions that make you hate that guy over there.
From segregation to inequality. All the multiple levels of inequality. Like I kept trying to explain that to them. Like every time they like the way they talk, whether they were talking about like everything they were talking about, where they were talking about black culture, and then it's like in Canada. In Canada, there was like this, and it took me a long time to become a guest of Canada rather than like the guy who owned it, because like in Canada, like the white people in Canada when I was growing up, they walked around Canada like, man, I own this shit. This is my country. And that's how we white people who were growing it up, and this is my perspective.
Astonishing.
It was amazing, right? And then of course I later learned, and they try to teach you in school. Like there's one thing I'll give credit to Canada about is, we learn about the native population, but still, we had like the swagger of
only during Thanksgiving, right?
Genocide. So it wasn't until later that I started to like sort of shed that kind of stuff off and realize truly where I was and what I was doing and, what was true in this country of mine. And I think and then I opened my eyes to what had become the racism toward these people was actually the conditions under which they were put by the white man when they were forced into these northernmost reservations, isolated from not only society, but intermingling tribes and just fucking everything up that had to do with their natural way of living, right? Stealing from them their land, their migration, their hunting, their fishing, their way of life completely. Then after stealing their land, reimbursing them or reinstating portions of their land far away from where they were settling, which was the prime land, on the rivers and near the mountains and all these other things that were, mattered most to these people. And then in those reservations is where culturally a new culture began, right? A new oppressed, depressed, drunken, beaten down culture that eventually rose up to what then the white man who was living comfortably in their nice new abodes along the rivers and in the mountains, look down at these people and be like, look at the, like, it was bad.
Know.
It was bad. Like I would look out my window.
Look at how bad they live when it's like they were put that way.
For real, I'd look out my window and like in Canada, there was like, we had in Winnipeg, we had this massive influx of people who were huffing. And there was bags, and and they were just hot. And I would wake up in the morning, they'd be passed out on my lawn, and it would be native Canadians, and indigenous, and my mind was on them and how fucked up they were, like really fucked up way of thinking, Anyway, we're off on all this nonsense, but it's not nonsense. Obviously, it may matter so much to me. It's actually one of the things I care about most, because it was one of those moments in my life where I was like, holy fuck, I have been lied to like nothing else. And this is the same thing that I think is true for most of racism in America. I think most of racism in America is just all based on a bunch of lies that people don't understand, and a complete lack of understanding of the actual history behind it all. And the truth is ugly, but so what?
There's always so much to learn too. Like you can start to try and undo and chip away at all of the falsehoods you've been taught.
Yeah.
Everything's so whitewashed, the whole history.
Yeah.
And it just takes forever to chip away at it all. Like there was like stages of like learning about this stuff. Like it wasn't until like I was really engaging and trying to learn the reality of America's history, right? When it was like years later that I ever learned about redlining and how people were like blocked from buying properties and building generational wealth. And I was like, oh man, that's like a whole other thing. Like, that explains so much.
Yeah, we all are to some degree.
And then when Dale and I were moving here, I was like, well, I'm not going to let anybody in the South, because I'd never lived in the South before. I was like, oh, this is a whole other can of worms that I got to learn about. Yeah. I was like, I'm not going to let anybody tell me any falsehoods about the history of the South, the American South. So I read all these books about like, horrible, like horror books about like lynching and cannibalism and all of this other stuff. And I was like, oh, that actually went on everywhere. It wasn't just the South. It's just like a whole thing, man. It never ends.
Well, as you might expect, this topic is not probably such a great topic where people are kind of bailing on us, and I can't blame them. So let's move on, shall we? Do you know who Ann Burrell is?
Ann Burrell?
Yeah.
No.
Ann Burrell is the Food Network star that they found it.
Oh, yes, Burrell. So you're mispronouncing it, I think.
Well, I knew a ball player named Pat Burrell.
And it was...
We never called him Burrell, and that was
But
how
it's
it was
a two-syllable name, and you're pronouncing it with one syllable is what I think is happening.
Hey, listen, I'm not here to fight with you about it, bro. I'm just saying the woman's name the way I understand it.
Her name's Delicate.
Ann Burrell.
That's great. Delicate said, the past is told by those who win.
Jimmy Eat World.
Mm-hmm.
The past is told by those who win, and that's such a perfect rocker lyric. Anyway, they found tons of pills at her death scene, which I think is very upsetting.
Well,
they're unknown what they are.
Are they not medications?
Well, they're unknown pills.
They think she had heart disease, so maybe she was being treated.
Trying to get to her statin.
That's a shame. Why aren't they reporting that?
Yeah, it like immediately.
That's kind of a bummer.
That suck, right? Because it like immediately like makes you think, well, was she? So she like another fentanyl death. Hopefully, we'll find out.
If you're a celebrity, you're never just allowed to rest in peace. They're always just going to try and like litigate whether you deserved your accidental, untimely death. It's horrible. Pills. They did that with Gene Hackman too. They were like, oh look, there's pills all over his house. It's like, yeah, he's an old man. He would have pills.
I'm looking at I got distracted because I'm looking at some new footage from the attempt on Trump has been released.
No way.
Yeah.
The
footage.
The first or the second one?
There was a second one?
There was a second one where
the one where he obviously bumped his head and got a little blood on his ear.
Oh, where he did like the WWE wrestlers move where he just like he like hides a razor blade and he's like
yeah. That's exactly right. Anyway, so I'm going to watch that. I haven't seen it. We lost most of our crowd.
That's okay.
Just so you know.
What else do we have tonight?
You said there's lots of stuff. You got more stuff, right? If you don't, I can
the stuff.
I think I have a couple more saves of stuff. Let me check. Anyway, kind of, it was kind of a weird night for me when Guilty Angel kind of. I hope you guys.
Yeah, those weird vibes, man.
Those weird.
I think it's unfortunate that people let themselves get yanked around by their disagreements or emotions. Like there's some things that are very justifiably things to get angry about, Yeah.
And
then there's some things where it's just a fucking waste. It's a waste of energy. It's a waste of time. Like, don't get angry about dumb stuff.
So there was some footage of this UFO stuff that's going on, right? Like we talk about it sometimes, right? UFOs are real. We
talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
It's like my love language is showing Dale UFO footage and Bigfoot film like, oh, look through the forest. Right by that tree, do you see there's like a Bigfoot? Oh, it's moving. That's definitely a Bigfoot.
Yeah. Well, so there's a V-shaped UFO that was captured on night vision above Amarillo, Texas. That's very credible, and it is
V-shaped.
It is 100%. So here's the thing that's wild about it. This is, without a doubt, the like in terms of the way in which it's been described in prior like exposures to this vehicle, it is this vehicle. It is so cool.
What do you mean exposures to this vehicle? What does
Like
that mean?
people, other eyewitnesses in previous, sightings of it have described it or drawn pictures of it, where it has this big light at the elbow of.
Oh yeah, no, I remember a story where a person was up in the woods and one of these came and hovered and
had a big light on there.
Yeah, shine a light.
So this has that light, and all that.
That seems
and
so.
And this guy picked it up on infrared. I saw a weird light, and he was like, "Oh, that's a little weird light," and all he saw was the light. He was a hunter. And he threw up his infrared on it and he just started shooting. And it's this fucking V-shaped UFO. And it is a UFO, but everyone, including me, is convinced it's the U.S. government.
Yeah, V-shaped is, they already have like drones that are V-shaped.
Well, this is not a drone. And
No. I don't mean a drone like you and I would fly. I mean like a drone like
no, I understand
those huge airplanes that don't make noise.
Anyway, it's magnificent looking.
And they're V-shaped.
And it's wild to see it because like I've heard about it, and then it's like, here it is. It's actually flying. And
so freaky.
Everyone thinks it's American, and I do too.
It's almost like scarier if it's the American planes that are like, hard to detect. I would rather it be UFOs.
Now Cosmic's getting on my nerves.
What?
You guys sound like MSNBC viewers. What does it even fucking mean?
I don't know what that means.
It's so lame, Cosmic.
What do we sound like? MSNBC viewers?
Yeah, it's just so fucking
How
lame.
would anybody know how they sound?
I think I told the story about how like when I was watching the coverage from the first Trump election, and how it like it made me sick to my stomach, and it ruined my OLED TV with an MSNBC emblazoned thing on the corner. Yeah. And by the way, I think MSNBC is bullshit.
Oh yeah.
I just think it's less bullshit than Fox. And so, yeah, I watched it. I fucking hate it. But yeah, if you want to identify me with MSNBC, go ahead.
It's actually really challenging to talk about anything without touching on these topics because they're so huge.
Yeah.
Because they're so huge and ever present. And so like it's kind of hard to like dance around it. I think if we had like it's got to be easy for people who have just like they're like gaming streamers or something, so they never have to talk about anything.
Yeah. I know.
But it's going to get harder to avoid topics.
It's like I didn't watch MSNBC when the Trump assassination happened, or the so-called Trump assassination happened. I didn't watch anything actually.
The most suspicious thing about that...
I don't have cable, and I'll never get it again.
The most suspicious thing about that is that he doesn't talk about it constantly. That's what makes me most suspicious.
It proves it proves
that something the fuck is up.
It proves
because if it was actually like a real thing, he would never fucking shut up about it.
The guy doesn't. How many times did we hear about how he passed the test?
Yeah, I know.
Where he had to say whatever potato, tomato,
like
whatever that fucking test was.
Yeah, he has his like opening monologue everywhere he goes, and it would definitely be constantly.
Yeah, he
up.
never talks about it, and you know why? Does. Because that ear was fucking healed the next day.
Yeah.
The next day there was nothing there.
That was weird, man.
And bullets don't leave no damage.
I don't have the explanation, but there's gonna be eventually. Maybe somebody's gonna tell us what the fuck happened, because it's not.
He got shot at. I mean, that we can agree on. I just don't think he got hit by anything. But I think he made it like he did so that he could sell it, because that's what politicians do. You know, it wouldn't be just Donald Trump that do that kind of thing. Certainly, any Democrat, pick a Democrat, they do it too. I hate that we have this topic. Sorry that it devolved into that.
Do you want to hear about something?
The morning show starred Mark Duplass, is in my saved files. So Mark Duplass, he suffered from major depression. And he said that he at one point felt like he might never be normal again. And it's really interesting that he felt that way, because when I was at my peak, I couldn't even get that close to, like, I was so far from being able to think about what normal was. Like, I didn't even think, it's like I couldn't even distinguish. I think that must be like a more clinical version of depression, where it's separate from what is otherwise like a kind of a relatively good life, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because my depression was certainly centered around events and things that had happened and enduring abuse. And maybe his is as well. I have no idea.
It is a whole different thing to consider when these people who are like super well connected, they have a really wonderful career, they're really well supported, they're wealthy, like, and they're depressed.
Cornell, so on and so forth.
Well, Chris Cornell, I believe, was on medication that had one of the side effects, like one of those risks that they would.
Yeah, but it was medication for his mental health, right?
Yes, but it was, yeah. I think the medication made him do it.
Yeah, it's a crazy side effect.
That sucks. Is he feeling better now? Is he talking about it in hindsight?
I think he said during the height of his depression, so it does sound like it was in hindsight. I didn't, Cosmic will love this, I didn't really get into the article much. It was one of those days, I had a very busy day, and so I didn't get to read as much as I'd preferred to on that one. But the headline was sufficient enough to talk about, because for me, I think talking about depression is cool. I think that having open conversations about it is really cool. I survived what I think to be what I believe to be a deadly dose of the stuff. I think I was extremely close to not being here from that fucking terrible state. And so when I see people talking about it, and I talk and like when I just like this sentence might never be normal again, and I was like comparing it to my own experience, and I was like, wow, I don't even know, like I couldn't even distinguish where normal existed. Like everything had gone. Like there was no normal even in my past. Like the depression was so bad that it had darkened even the best of times. Even, the ones that were happening currently, in that time. So it was just an interesting thing. It was like an interesting distinction, because it was like, it's so interesting how like insipid and horrible depression is, and the ways in which it fucks with you. Because it sounds to me like when I read that, like that there was something normal to attach to, or that depression was what was causing him to be or experience something abnormal, as opposed to where it felt like my life was not me, not my brain, not my state of mind, but rather my life, my existence, my ripple, if you will, in this world was just contaminated.
I think that one of the best analogies I've ever heard that sort of helps you picture it is like the rising water, like analogy for depression, Yeah. Where like you have varying levels of water level, right? Like you could be walking around and the water's at your ankles and you're like, okay, I live in my house. It's normal. I'm sloshing around a little bit. You could be walking around the water's at your waist and you're like, this is a lot more difficult to walk around and do stuff. I still can like access a lot of things. I can do a lot of things, but like, man, this is hard. And then like, really severe depression where you're completely underwater. Everything looks different. Everything's hard to do. Nothing is normal. Nothing is anything like it used to be. And so I just feel like when I started to treat my really bad anxiety, I had like really bad ruminating for like daily, constantly. It was horrible.
Yeah.
But I just sort of felt as if it was like when I got better, it was like I could see the waves were coming. Before they used to just hit me and I'd be like in this shit. Yeah. But then like I could
blindside you.
I could feel I could sense them coming and I could be like prepare for it a little bit, Totally. And I think that's got to be what it feels like to get out of it and then look back where you're like, holy shit, I was really underwater.
Yeah, it's wild. Well, Mark Duplass seems to be out of it, or at least he's talking about it openly on The Morning Show. Do you know what that is? The Morning Show? Is that like a network thing?
That is a podcast.
Oh. Mark Duplass is a Duplass brother.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He is the Mark one. What's the other one's name? Is it John? He said Cosmic said he liked John. I don't know.
I was gonna come up with a name because I didn't know his name.
Duplass brothers.
So I was gonna be like,
I didn't even know who they were, but RD used to call me and just cry about them because they got to take the career path we were on. They got to take that career path. It's such an interesting. I'm glad I put it that way, actually, because RD used to call up and he'd be like, "It should have been us, bro. Should have been us." And I was like, I thought we'd be totally different. I liked them. Like they were fine. I enjoyed I saw a few of their movies. I haven't seen them all, but Jay, that's right, Jay Duplass.
See, you didn't know it, and so I was just gonna like make up names. I'm gonna be like, oh, Bartholomew Duplass, Froderick Duplass,
Reggie Duplass.
Reginald Duplass.
Oh, Morning Show is a show on Apple, right? Because he's an actor. I thought he became like so Morning Show is a show on Apple about.
Oh, it's a show.
Oh, I want to see that actually. Now I think I saw a trailer for it.
You guys are so much better at this than we are. I don't know anything.
That's not true. You know lots of things.
I know some things.
He just knows what the Morning Show is.
I have an item for you, which, is kind of out of nowhere. But we almost lost the lead vocalist to REO Speedwagon. Almost.
In your letter, ooh, in your letter.
So they had played a farewell concert. How crazy is that? They played a farewell concert. He's 78 years old. He was driving back home on the highway and he fell asleep.
Oh, shit.
He said he dozed off in his car.
It happens.
And when he woke up, his car had rolled, and he said that he was in this little cocoon because his airbags all worked everywhere all around him. Yeah. So he was like, he said he's got sternal bruises. He's a little banged up. Otherwise, totally fine because his car saved him.
Wow.
I know. But we almost lost him after a farewell concert. Horrible.
I was sitting at home waiting for my dad to come home from a truck. My dad was a truck driver from a trip. My dad was a truck driver, and he would go on these trips for weeks at a time. And then he would come home, and when things were good, we got to rifle through his suitcase for treats. So he'd come home after he'd be gone for a week or whatever, and we had this routine. He'd sit down and he'd put his suitcase in the middle of the fucking room, and my brother and I were kids, and we'd know there was something in there for us. And then my dad would sit in his chair and he'd put his feet up and he'd be like, "My boots off." And then my brother and I would have to take his boots off, and my dad would always play the trick where he would like hold his toe up to keep the boot on.
Yeah.
And then he would let it go and we go flying. Every time.
I know that one. That's a good one.
So he'd get us every time, both of us, we'd go through the ritual of being, humiliated and bruised. And then he was like, "I got something for my suitcase for you. Go dig through." And we'd have to dig through his suitcase to find the gift. And one time it was the REO Speedwagon 8-track.
Wait a second.
So that Christmas, I got a portable 8-track.
Wait, did he really give it to you, or was he just listening to it and was like, "Oh shit, I forgot the kids"?
Well, so here's the thing. So you busted out my story because he fucking gives us this thing and we're like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." And I got this like 8-track recorder for Christmas. Or not recorder, 8-track like portable player. It was like this big. It was like you can't.
Yeah, like a tape deck, but for
a little
an
bigger
8-track.
tape deck, and then it was in the side. You put the 8-track, and then you had like on the top, big ass thick, like the big numbers on the phones. Play, and yeah, REO Speedwagon. And so I was like, "Oh, my dad is the greatest dad," because REO Speedwagon had just become this huge thing.
Yeah.
Well, he had remember Columbia Records?
Yeah.
That fucker. So he just like got the fucking 12 records for a penny or whatever. And
it was like a freebie.
It was like, yeah, he was just like one of the ones he got for a penny or whatever.
I was like, "Oh, fucking I'll give the kids that."
And he put it in, he took it on the road, unbeknownst to us, he took it on the road because it was like all the rage. REO Speedwagon was all the rage. So I'm talking about, my dad's 1 year younger than fucking Paul McCartney. And my dad didn't even like REO Speedwagon. He didn't even like the Beatles. Oh,
well, he wouldn't have been sad about the news of losing the singer. But luckily, it didn't happen. Every
time I hear about the REO Speedwagon, though, I go right back to rifling through my dad's.
Stefan's so funny. Is he a Duplass brother or a whole different Duplass? And then I was making fun of
Pierre
names.
Mohammed Duplass.
Ah, yes, Mark and Pierre Mohammed Duplass.
That's so fucking hilarious. It's really funny.
Oh, man.
Well, anyway, I just like to share those little anecdotes, or not anecdotes, my little flashback stories that I have. They're fun. They're going to be in my books. If you read my books, you guys read my book. I'm going to read another one. I'm going to write another one. You dang right. I started thinking about another memoir, another Hollywood memoir, like another angle of like my Hollywood story. That is actually very interesting. Although I probably won't write it.
Oh, so you don't. What are you talking about it?
Yeah, I should have shut up.
Really? You're not going to say anything about it?
No, I actually realized I shouldn't talk about it. Because it's like opening up a door that I actually should not open. Anger is a symptom of depression, says Delicate. That is the truth. I know this because I was very angry for so long. And I didn't know I was depressed. Depression is so insidious you might not even know you are depressed. You might think that you have anger issues or that you're whatever.
It's sneaky.
Yeah. I haven't actually started. Stefan's asking if I've started writing the new book. I haven't actually started writing the new book. I've organized the new book, but I have not written it yet. My problem is I gotta get this book selling. I've got to
Yeah, but the thing is
to...
like, okay, so you wait.
No, it's not about that. It's like I'm launching the channels, and you know how much effort I'm putting into that.
Yeah, you're working a lot.
And it's just taking all day. It's my writing time is at 9 a.m. or whatever, 8 a.m. when I get up. And right now I'm just absorbed in trying to make these. First of all, I gotta say, I've said this before on this channel, I'll say it again, and I love this medium. I'm really enjoying it. I'm finding creative ways. Like you guys don't see what I'm working on behind the scenes, but I'm working on a lot of things behind the scenes, and I'm gonna grow this thing out. I'm taking it slow. Pardon me. I'm not interested in like just jumping in and being like, oh, I'm gonna try everything. You know, like I'm working on this educational side of this that I love, and that I'm super excited about. Where I'm gonna do daily talks, but I'm not gonna do it on this channel. I'm gonna do it on a different channel. So I've decided that, but I got to build it out, and like it's just a lot of work. What I need is a staff. I need a fucking staff so bad. Like if I had a staff, I would be able to write my book. And by staff, I'm talking about like if I had like editors in particular, like one or two editors. I if I had because you can get like really great like editors for a really good price overseas. And I'm not ashamed to do that at all. I'm a collaborative
Why would you be
person.
ashamed?
There's people shame you should be using Americans and all this nonsense.
Oh yeah.
And the only problem with that is Americans are like $1,500 a week, and I can get a guy in India for fucking $500 a week, and he's getting a great standard of life out of that. And I'm getting editing I can afford. I mean, I can't afford it, but if I could, that's the stuff I'd afford first. If I could get an editor that I could afford sitting in the room with me, cutting, oh my God, that's my paradise.
Yeah, but then you'd be working.
No. They do assembly cuts.
Yes, I know.
And then I come in. Well, then I come in and I whip around for an hour.
The point is to have you not working on the thing and having somebody else take care of it. But if you're like directing the edit, then
I'm talking about a feature film. I would not direct these edits.
That's what I thought we were
my
talking
YouTube
about.
content. I would just give notes. But I wouldn't sit in. No, I would totally farm that whole business out. I'm going to eventually, when we have like concurrent viewers of like whatever, 2,000. I'll have editors.
Can we talk about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni's
back to Lively and Baldoni
legal drama?
Yeah, please.
Okay, it's so interesting what's happening now because they're all fighting about discovery, right?
Okay.
So apparently the Baldoni's lawyers had made these like public statements that said that they have everything they need about Taylor Swift, and don't worry, we're gonna nail her to the wall, and we have everything. And
this is prior.
She's implicated herself, and we have all the receipts.
We're talking about some time ago.
Yeah, like just a little while ago.
Oh, okay. Recently.
And so they've been fighting about whether they should have because Taylor's company has provided some discovery in this process,
Yeah.
They've requested and they've provided. And so but now they're saying that they need Blake Lively's text messages because they don't actually have anything.
Right.
And so right now there's a bunch of like arguing in court trying to compel them to clarify, do you have things or do you not have things, and what is it we're supposed to provide? And the judge ruled that they have to hand over these texts, but I don't know how they're supposed to figure out. I don't know how Blake Lively's side is supposed to figure out what what discovery to hand over if they're not being clear about what they need. They're being really shady about it.
Well, you saw what the judge approved, because the judge would have. I'm sure there's some stipulations on it. They're not going to just give over blanket texts. So, and Lyman has, been very good about that, we'll say, or he's ruled in favor of protecting their privacy. So I think there's guidelines, and I don't think those guidelines are going to be, they're not going to just have everything. Another
thing that's happening that's super interesting is that Blake Lively's supposed to be deposed very shortly. I don't know if it's like a week or something, in a week. I don't know. I can't remember. I'm sorry. I should have been more prepared to tell you all of this stuff.
She's going to be deposed shortly.
Yeah. But they want more discovery they want the discovery to be completed from Baldoni's lawyers before the deposition, so that they have everything that they need to ask her about, so that she can look over everything that she's supposed to talk about. Well, and what's weird is that they're saying that we want to stay the deposition until we have all of that stuff, because you have to be able to prepare your client to defend herself in a deposition. Well, so what's weird is that they're
her side's trying to stay?
Her side is trying to stay the deposition until they have all the discovery, because they want to be able to prepare their client properly. Because what they're worried about happening, there was a lawyer on Reddit that was describing what this tactic is what they're trying to hold some things close to the chest so that they can ask her about it, and she'll be like, I don't know what you're talking about, or I don't know anything about that. So that at trial they can then show the thing, which would have been her first time to see this, and then show the jury about how she was deposed, saying that she didn't know anything about it, which makes her look guilty. That is like a tactic.
There's so many presumptions in that whole idea by that attorney, or because the way that it works is entirely different. First of all, every single question, almost every single question asked is objected to in one way or another, and all of those objections get ruled on. And so it's going to depend on the rulings, and with regard whether or not, and first of all, deposition footage is not used unless it's used to impeach. So, or if a witness is either unavailable or refuses to come or whatever it might be, and there's a deposition video, they'll use deposition videos. Sometimes they'll use deposition videos if they don't plan on calling a specific witness and they want to use a deposition video instead. And that, again, is something that is brought to the judge and that is argued over by both sides and is settled usually by the judge before it moves forward. But before you interrupt, Blake Lively, they won't impeach Blake Lively unless Blake Lively goes on and changes her story.
Yeah.
Then they might.
That's what they would be catching her doing.
But they'll do it this very same way. They're not going to throw up the video. They're going to, the judge is probably going to have them read from a transcript to impeach.
Did that happen to Amber Heard in her trial?
Because she had those, I can't remember a specific thing, but that's how it would go.
She was on the stand testifying in her trial, and I think they also had her depositions that they would show the jury. I can't remember whether we just saw that on the outside or whether the jury actually saw it on the inside.
Well, yeah. So I don't remember which specific.
But they were pointing out how she changed her story or how she said it differently in her deposition.
You can use them to impeach.
Yeah.
But you're not going to use them in lieu of testimony.
I think that's just what her lawyers are trying to prevent from happening. Is they're like, show us everything so that we know what the fuck she's supposed to be defending herself against.
You know what her lawyers are doing? The same thing fucking Leo's lawyers did. The same thing. When you have money, you just put it off. She doesn't want to sit for her deposition ever. And yeah, the more knowledge, the better. Maybe. The idea that they're going to trip her up in some way is absurd, in my opinion. It's absurd. As far as prep goes, what are they going to throw at her? I mean, if unless she's got stuff in the closet that she's worried about, there's nothing that they can do. She has counsel present during her deposition. The counsel can call for recess or a break.
Can you describe what that's like? Because you've been through this. So are they right at your shoulder?
They're beside you.
Do they tap on your leg if they think you're screwing
They're
up?
They're right beside you. They sit beside you, across from, usually beside you, or they're very close. They're in the same room, in a boardroom. My lawyers were right beside me when I.
Okay, do you want to answer my question?
Well, I'm sorry.
Like when they think you're screwing up, do they like tap you on the knee or do they just speak up or what?
They don't. They can't do anything to interfere with your answer.
What? Really? What if you're screwing up?
They'll object. Well, you go through your prep. You understand fundamentally how to answer questions according to the way that lawyers like the questions being answered. You get all the sort of breakdowns on what specifically to say, what not to say, brevity, all of it. And then that's it. They can't do anything. They throw you into the fire after that. You sit there and you hope you don't. And I'll tell you, man, the one thing they tell you constantly is don't get emotional. They're going to try to trigger you so that you'll say shit. You get emotional. You just do.
Really?
Yeah, man, they say shit. And you're just like, the cosmic urgency got a little on my nerves for a second when he was suggesting that I sound like I'm MSNBC. He probably didn't mean anything by it, but I take personal offense to it because I don't fucking like NBC. Do you know what I mean? I don't like anybody on NBC. I don't identify with that shit. I watched it, so what? You got to get your news from somewhere, and fucking Fox is vile to me, so it is what it is. But to put it on me is its own indirect insult. And I guess I shouldn't have admitted that I watched it, making myself vulnerable to it. But
well, whatever. I mean,
if you tilt somebody, you can take their chips, and the same is true in a deposition. If you can tilt the deponent, then the deponent will start to spill beans, and hopefully you can then find mistakes to exploit.
Don't spill beans.
But if you're telling the truth, which I was, so if you're telling the truth, and this is where I'm like Blake Lively you're either telling the truth or you're not telling the truth.
Well, that's
There's
true.
Nothing to be worried about if the truth can't.
My strategy, if I was like a shithead lawyer defending fucking Baldoni, and I wanted to trap Blake Lively, I would just try and get her to really narrate because she talks a lot.
There was only one question in our entire deposition that, like one line of questioning in our entire prep, that my lawyers were really particular about trying to coach me into answering, and I totally betrayed them in the deposition because they didn't want me to lie, but it was just too much of a step around the truth for me to give them what they wanted. But lawyers will do that. They'll go that far.
And so you were just like, fuck it, gloves off when it came up?
Yeah. You can make fun of me anytime. But sometimes Cosmic Energy says, there's one thing I'm going to do is going to make fun of you, Dale. And I'm totally down with that. I'm a self-deprecating fool. There are just some things that might get on my nerves. And like comparing me to like something as vile as an MSNBC is.
What do you mean vile? Come on.
I find the whole thing vile.
Yeah. Listen, a lot of people who end up like figuring out where they are on the political spectrum start somewhere closer to the center, and then they sort of figure out which way they end up.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's just, like unexpected or unusual or wrong. It's like, okay, so you started out liberal and you were watching MSNBC.
Well, I'm generally liberal. I don't want to get into it anymore. We don't need to get into this. Where were we? We were on a good topic that was fun. What was it? Do you remember?
If there's one thing I'm going to do, it's make fun of you, Dale.
Yeah. No. Do you remember what topic we were on?
No.
Oh, fuck. Well, there you go then. It's just a bunch of absent-mindedness. I can't remember what I was talking about. I'm it's kind of an off day, I suppose.
Yeah, press rewind.
I suppose. I don't know. It's just, it's been a fucking strange one. I'm not going to lie. I've enjoyed myself because I love hanging out with you guys. I just love I love doing this. I've tried so many things creatively. I've had the misfortune I have like the artist's heart, the artist's mind, and all this other stuff, but I've never known exactly where to put my art. So in a band and fucking stand-up comedy, actor, writer, director, producer, like all these things, trying to find, where my voice is and where my heart lies, I suppose. And along the way, I found things that I love. I used to tell my students at UGA when I was teaching at the University of Georgia, I would tell them that, when they would ask questions about like, how do you fucking know what you are? And I would tell them, go on a set and just like gravitate, try to find the thing and gravitate to it. Like, You know, obviously not the actor, or but you'll see it. You can just watch and see the things that are going on there, and you can find your place, and you'll find you'll find that moment.
That was really funny
it
because
kind of sparks a little
I
ember.
just imagined that the person you gave that advice to like sent you a text message of like a picture, like a selfie of them like getting shoved away by Denzel Washington's security or something.
Yeah.
Just gravitate to where you want to be.
Yeah, you can stop right there. I want to be. Anyway, I don't even know where I was going on that now.
Erica said,
there's another
interesting interview with another rejuror. What if this one tells a different story and then we don't know who to believe?
I'm super excited about it because, well, I think they're going to tell the same story. I think they're going to be that there was some look. They deliberated for almost 3 days or 2 days. What was it? They deliberated yesterday was Wednesday.
It was like two full days.
2 full days, right?
Because it was like a half day and then a full day and then a half day.
Yeah. Well, they deliberated Monday and Tuesday all day. That's 2 days. 2.5 days. Because they did the couple of hours on Friday. Then they deliberated Monday and Tuesday, and then they had their verdict Wednesday.
I'm personally really grateful that I'm not on the other side wondering what happened with this verdict. It's like some people are really struggling. Some people that thought she was guilty and were so convinced she was going to go to prison are super, super struggling right now. They're coming up with all kinds of like outlandish like conspiracy theories about how, they said our conspiracy theories were weird, but now they've got.
Yeah, they'll go anywhere now. They'll fucking dig deep.
I feel sad for them. I saw a video of this lady who was crying in her car because she was like, there's just no justice. And, she did it and she's going to get away with it. And his poor family. And it's like, but that was the story we were telling. Like on the side that thought she was innocent. Yeah, his killers got away with it. Like,
by the way,
it's so fucked up that we all feel the same way. And it's sadness for him and his family.
The O'Keeffe's, I guess, spokesperson, maybe them, I don't know who spoke publicly, but somebody on behalf of them at least said that they are something about them that the DUI, the OUI will help them in their in their pursuits civilly.
Oh yeah, right. I saw that. I saw another article that said that a lawyer was advising them not to go after the civil suit because it would be he didn't think that they would prevail.
They're not going to prevail. It's this.
I think they're getting advised to do the same thing that O.J. Simpson, like to stick it to her like they stick it to him.
Typically
it's
what
a very
follows,
very different situation.
Yeah, it is. Typically, what follows is a civil litigation after a. Harvey, he's being sued. Right now as we speak. He's been getting sued this whole time. So, everything. It's not just OJ. That's just the common sort of path for everything. The idea that they might think they're going to, win over a jury because OJ did. I don't think that's on anybody's mind, and certainly no lawyer that they would be dealing with would talk in that way. I don't think.
It's just so misguided too, because like they knew exactly what happened to Nicole Brown Simpson. They just weren't sure who did it. But with John O'Keefe, they don't know how he died, so they can't.
Erica's saying a heartbreaker there. Read that.
That's the link, but it doesn't link in the chat.
Sorry. She said, this juror said that she cried as she left the courtroom, not because of the verdict, not because the verdict was wrong, but that she felt so bad for the O'Keefe family. This is the real tragedy in all this, and this is why
because those jurors watch that family the entire time.
My title for this episode, although we haven't even talked about it, so I'll have to change it, is Will the FBI Step In and Investigate John O'Keefe? Like his death. Like what we have is a jury that has found, or let's put it a different way. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts was unable to prove beyond any reasonable doubt that John O'Keefe was struck by a vehicle. And
so that has been ruled out.
And the FBI's experts all testified emphatically that John O'Keefe was not hit by a car. That means he was murdered.
Well, or it was, an accident.
No, I mean, we did over this.
Murder has intent.
No, if
it could have just been a homicide.
If it's an accident, and you cover it up,
Yes.
it becomes
So there's that.
It becomes a murder.
No, it doesn't.
It
No.
does.
Murder is intent. Homicide, and then what are those charges? It's like
Here's the thing.
messing with a dead body.
I think you misunderstand. You don't understand where I'm coming from.
I wish I remembered those.
It's going to be a murder charge. It's not going to be, an accident charge. They're going to say that they're going to say
It's
that,
manslaughter.
Let me finish what I'm
or
saying.
negligent homicide or homicide.
Let me finish what
I
I'm
guess
saying.
homicide isn't a charge. Go ahead.
Well, all I'm saying is that they're going to be charged with murder. The DA is going to look at a defense, or the Crown in this case, or sorry, the Commonwealth in this case, is going to look at the defense, or is going to look at the idea that it was an accident or whatever as their defense, as their excuse.
I need to look this up.
It's like a self-defense. Who knows that it doesn't turn into that, right? Well, it was self-defense, but the problem is it's the same thing as you covered it up, so they're going to charge you with murder, and that's what I mean by it's a murder charge.
Yeah, but that's a different charge. Like negligent homicide for one. I think it would be like if they knew he was injured and they didn't get any life-saving, they didn't call 911 or they didn't try to get an ambulance to him or whatever.
Yeah.
Then that makes them culpable in his death because they didn't try to help him.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the way in which it doesn't matter. We're just kind of beating around the bush. I think
I need to learn all the different definitions.
I think
because
that
I
as
don't
a result,
know them.
I think that as a result of trying to cover it up, if they find a suspect, that suspect will be charged with murder. And not with, and I think they'll be charged with murder because
you're so emphatic.
They're going to, because you covered it up, and you don't cover up accidents. And if you do, unless there's an absolute proof of an accident, so there would have to be empirical proof, not just the person saying that there was an accident. So in other words, if they catch somebody, Higgins, and Higgins says, yeah, I took him down, but it was an accident. If they have a stream of eyewitnesses that say that, then yeah, maybe he doesn't get charged with murder. He gets charged with negligent homicide, and then a bunch of other charges, which would be interfering with it, and tampering with evidence, and all the other charges that put them away for life, right? So whichever ones they end up with. Now, but in another scenario, in a scenario where they don't have a bunch of witnesses supporting a story, that person's going to get charged with murder because there's going to be a motive. They're going to be hiding it. There's going to be all that shit. So it's all fucking pointless. I'm so grumpy now. It's all pointless. I started out this live in a good mood, and then Guilty Angel kind of threw it off, and then I haven't recovered well. And I apologize.
Hey, you need to take responsibility.
It's my job to recover. I'm apologizing.
But it wasn't them that threw it off.
Are you going to confront me when I'm telling you I'm having?
No, I'm saying.
It wasn't salt on my wounds.
It wasn't anybody that threw you off. It's you got thrown off. You were thrown off.
I mean, oh, okay.
I had a new theory. I was just thinking about this. What if they meant to confront John O'Keefe in the house, and they used the dog to sort of intimidate him so he wouldn't fight back.
Erica makes my point far better than I had. She says, at the very least, it'll be murder too, the same they charged Karen for because they didn't seek help, which shows a depraved heart. They were literally charging her for murder too because she didn't seek help.
Interesting.
It's a murder charge.
No, murder too is intent, that she meant to run him over. She meant to hit him with a car.
No, they're saying that she meant to leave him to die. That's their charge. Their charge was she hit him. That
was the aspect of it.
I
thought it was
she left him to die. The whole murder too was she left him to die. She knew he was injured is their play, and she left him to die on the side of the road.
Okay, and so it would be the same thing if he struck his head and they were like, oh, he's really harmed here. He really needs some medical intervention, and then they just simply did not give it to him. That's murder too.
If you caused it. Yeah, you have to cause the injury. At least that's how it seems. I'm no fucking lawyer. Erica said no, and I don't know what she's saying no to, so.
I would hate to be them right now. Do you think Higgins is hiding in Aruba?
I think the FBI is up in this shit because the FBI, we covered this yesterday. The FBI, when the state is corrupt, the only thing we have left is the federal government to protect us. And right now, this looks like the state is corrupt. It looks like it's corrupt all the way up, in my opinion. I thought the judge, is her name Cannon?
Canone.
I thought Judge Canone was horribly biased showed a horrible bias and a very strong bias to the Commonwealth. Now, in the end, I'll say that the verdict is emphatic because of that. Do you know what I mean? Like, no shenanigans on the bench, because the shenanigans looked like they were going the other way.
I can't remember if it was the chief of police and somebody high up in the sheriff's department in the Massachusetts state police, I guess.
Yeah.
Jesus, I don't even know what I'm talking about. Anyway, they released a statement where they were like, hey, we got a lot of feedback that we aren't doing a good job, and so we're determined to do better. Like, they were about to release a statement. They were like,
sure you are.
There's a lot of eyes looking at us right now about how. So they were talking. The statement was like, we're going to train our officers in how to conduct proper investigations and how to secure a crime scene and how to.
Thank you for bringing that up, because juror number 4 said that one of the main factors for him, and he thinks for others, although he was really good at not speaking for the other jurors, did like slightly opine on, but he kept he kept himself in his own little box. But anyway, he said that the botched investigation was the number one thing.
Yep.
They were like, it was just, you could not rely on anything that the state gave you. I mean, fuck, handing it over. It takes me back to that time when I got a DUI. I was whatever I was. It was 17 years old or something. I didn't even have a license, and and I showed up for my trial, which is like a bench trial, but I showed up for it, and do they call it a bench trial, something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and the cop who arrested me didn't show up, and it was just like so great, because I was going to jail because I was going I was speeding so fast or something. So my attorney was expecting me to go to jail for 30 days, and I was like, oh my god, jail is my biggest fear of all fears. Like the biggest fear, because I just don't think I would fare well in that situation at all. I would say something that would make me an MSNBC and I'll be dead,
So stupid.
So we love the police fucking it up when we're on the docket.
It's just astonishing that they let it go this far. Like, how did you bring a case that's that damaged, that's all a juror had to see was how you guys fucked it up? Like, usually there's a lot of people, I don't know, I watch a lot of crime shows, and there's a lot of victims and victims' families who have to just deal with how the people who they think are almost certain have done the crime going free because they just didn't build a strong enough case. They don't have enough of the evidence. But, Karen Reed got 2 trials with this garbage. And
they failed twice, and they still want to blame her. I think what's happened in the O'Keefe world is that they're in the club. The parents are in the club. Everybody's in the club, and the club supports the club. So I think that these parents believe the police because their son was a cop.
There's also a really strange psychological thing that happens to mothers sometimes, where they're so attached to their sons or their daughters that anybody who ever is romantically involved with them is like an antagonist in their life. Like, I don't know if you guys ever seen the in-law syndrome, where like the stepmother hates the mother-in-law hates the daughter-in-law for no fucking apparent reason, just for the fact that she exists.
Yeah.
And so I wonder whether there was just this like bias against Karen Reed because she was this girlfriend.
I believe that Higgins accidentally killed John O'Keefe, and that there were enough witnesses to prove amongst the group that Higgins had accidentally killed John O'Keefe. And so they decided that they would avoid, first of all, Higgins would probably be charged with murder because of those texts, because of that relationship. He invited him to the house. So I think that Higgins intended to confront John in some way. I think that confrontation got turned ugly by accident. And John O'Keefe was rendered dead. And I think that they threw that man out on the grass to make it an accident. I think they expected to wake up in the morning and find the body, and somebody would find the body.
And think it was a snowplow.
Okay,
I know, but we were talking about the family and why they believe We were talking about like John O'Keefe's mother, who believes this story. She saw the trial. She saw all the evidence.
Well, where I'm going is that they covered up this murder, or they covered up this accidental death, and well, anyway, I don't know. I'm sorry.
No, but that's what we were talking about.
Okay.
Why do you think that John O'Keefe's mother, for instance, or any of his family members, believes this story that Karen Read is guilty?
Because they're in the cop club. Because the cops believe cops, and that's
so
why.
If the cops are saying something happened, then that means it happened,
or didn't happen.
Wow.
Or didn't happen. So they're saying I didn't have, the guy never came to the house. They believe that.
These cops who I know would never harm my son.
Who is a cop?
Yeah.
They're not gonna. They're in the club. And I think what keeps the reason why it happened, the reason why it was successful, to the extent that they were able to cover up themselves thus far at least, is because it was an accident. I think that if he intended to, and then anyone witness to it believed that Higgins intended to bring that kind of harm to John, that Higgins would have been. He would have. I think everyone expected this fight. I think that this was like a. You know how they texted like they were high school?
Yeah.
Like they were like, "You're hot." You know. Like fucking, like we're in fucking high school,
that was
right?
a good accent, yeah.
So, maybe that was going all the way through. Maybe the next, that was so high school, in my high school at least. The guy who's gonna fucking beat up the guy who's losing the girl so he could try to get the girl. That happened time and again in my high school, over and again. Like I could probably, if I sat and thought about it long enough, give you names and circumstances. That's how much it happened around in my school. It was such a high school thing. It's like, he doesn't deserve her.
At my high school, there was a guy, two dudes who got into a fight, and one of them got stabbed, and it was over a girl. And I've never stopped thinking about her and how awful that must have been.
So I think that yeah, of course. And I think that's what's up. I think this guy accidentally killed John O'Keefe, and his friends meant to cover it up for him. No one expected Karen. They thought Karen Read would just go home and pass out and wake up in the morning, and the plow story would happen, and she would be off the fucking hook. But instead, she called Jen McCabe. She created the disturbance. She became a problem for their cover-up story.
That's right.
And so she drew the attention to the body at 5:30 in the morning, at 6, at whatever it was in the morning, at 5 a.m. when they got there, whatever the fuck the number was, when what they were hoping for was that nobody saw anything until the morning, and they were like, what the fuck is this lump on the lawn? Oh my God, it's a guy who must have got hit by the plow. And then it goes, and they get to investigate it, and they get to do the same thing in their investigation they did with the Karen Read trial, or the Karen Read case, which is make up everything they need to get made up to make it look like it happened the way it happened or whatever. They write it up in the report, and boom, Higgins walks, everybody's okay. It's just another tragic death for those two kids.
That makes the most sense, I think, to me.
And instead, Karen Read doesn't go to sleep. She stays up, she drinks, she passes out for an hour or whatever, wakes up frantic, doesn't hear from him. The interesting thing about women, and just all of us in general, but women in particular, is they can be so intuitive in these kinds of situations.
And she was like, something the fuck is wrong.
And she was hysterical, and that, and spiritually. Now remember, not only was this her former lover, or her lover about to be former lover, but she'd known this guy since childhood. These guys were connected at a very deep level.
That's interesting.
And so she was frantic, crazy, and she brought the attention early. And when she did so, she opened up her fucking mouth and said, "Did I hit him?" And now they had to follow the road down Karen Read on the cover-up side. They just had to go down it because it was right there. By the way, another thing that juror number 4 said, you know what he said about the fucking taillight? He said the big piece of evidence for me was the videos. He said, the video clearly shows a red taillight illuminating when there should not be any red taillight illuminating there. FBI. That means FBI. That's what I'm saying, bro. I'm telling you, bro. I'm making the call. FBI's on the way. Knock, knock, knock. Who's there? It's the FBI. Oh, come on in. Sit down, Mr. Higgins. Put your hands behind your back.
Erica says at the very least, sorry, but I think it's very unlikely they ever charge another suspect.
Only if the Commonwealth will not. The police are done.
Yeah.
The only way that anybody gets charged for John O'Keefe's murder is if there's a federal investigation. That's the only way. The cover-up is complete. Look, I've been talking about, like, were they trying to throw the trial? I still believe they were trying to throw the trial. I believe Brennan tried to throw the trial. Why? He didn't even do his rebuttal that he promised he was going to do and that he fought so bloody hard for. His closing statements were a fucking joke. I think that he just wanted to step into the limelight, catch the fame, and he threw the case in the most dramatic possible way. I say that, but this guy said, juror number 4 in his interview on TMZ, Brennan did a good job. Very convincing case. Isn't that wild? I just
hate it. I hate it because I have no idea how, God forbid anybody that we know and love is ever on trial. Because jurors are just...
This country scares me, like just the government side of it. Why can't the government be as cool as the people? Ever? In any country? I was working for, this will be my last thing. I was working for, I owned a hosting company, a web hosting company at the beginning of the web. I got a share in a big company or in a small startup, and I was running all the marketing for it. And so I was doing all this marketing, and I ended up like trying to hook into some international stuff, and I hooked up with a bunch of Iranians, and I started working with them closely. They were fucking amazing people. They hated their government. Like, oh my God, the shit they were saying to me. They were like, oh, we just want to get the fuck out of here. They were just like, I was like talking to my American neighbor, my Canadian brother, like just like that. And it's just so weird. It's like, it doesn't matter where you live. Like, America is the greatest country in the world on earth, in my opinion, countries I've been to.
Just
not the government.
If you had a government where there was no lobbying.
Yeah.
And that there was no money in politics, right? Like you couldn't fundraise and make a bunch of really rich friends and then enrich yourself by winning the office.
Yes.
Then you would have a government that is really awesome.
Yeah.
Because you would have regular people who are really passionate about, like,
just let it pay more.
Their local government and go all the way up.
Give them C-level salaries, Like, just get like it pays $500,000, make it pay $2 million or something. Like, just and let senators make $300,000 a year.
But the way that they're like, it just
but I guess corruption follows no matter.
It just the way it's structured now. It just incentivizes the worst people, the worst people who are the most greedy and power hungry, and so that's why everything sucks.
We digress into that because we both talked about just how fearsome it would be to be facing prosecution in this country, especially as an innocent accused. Like, if you're guilty, you're guilty, and you're going to go through the process. But if you're like an innocent person and you've got the fucking government on your ass, like, man, if she didn't get that DUI and that jury hung, they could come after her again. She spent over $1 million on that trial. Now, most of it was fundraised, but fans crying and shit. People are like wildly devoted to the story, which is cool. I get it. I mean,
I'm so glad she won.
She represented justice to me too. I appreciate you guys so much. I'm sorry it was a bit of a bumpy ride tonight. If it was, there was some odd tension. Sorry that Guilty Angel got so upset. I hope she's okay. She's obviously very unhinged, and yeah, I hope she's okay, and I hope you guys are okay. I hope you guys aren't too disturbed by it. Online can be a little bit of a cruel place, and I wish people. I wish that the people who come here would just come here to enjoy the space, because that's the space we want to create. Even if I'm being grumpy on some days.
I love everybody's input. I learned so much from everybody. And you guys are always so helpful, like helping us with little tidbits of information that are super fun to talk about. So I just love the chat, and I hope it continues to be. It was everybody regulated really well today.
It was good. You guys handled the controversy real well.
Jerry.
Including including Cosmic.
That's so funny, bro.
Cosmic Urgency is the funniest guy. You guys are magnificent. I am gonna go and chew on something. I don't know what it is, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. We are so privileged to have you in our lives. So, good night, and I wish you all the best. Good night.
Good night.